Okay, here it goes. It's like, would you like to start working? I guess.
Uh,
Thank you, OBS. Would you like to do your job? Not really. Yeah, but you have to. This has a yes button and nothing
eh,
else.
Freaking
Yes.
technology. I'll pass. uh,
That, and I had it in my Discord somewhere. There we go. And there we go. Alright. Now to mentally remind myself of what I'm doing. Oh, OBS, that's what I was.
I was drawing a
Alright.
blank on it too. I was about to try and help you, but then I forgot.
Alright. I can imagine something about tonight. It feels like we probably won't get much of a showing tonight, which just won't bother me too much.
That's fine. I'm kind of tired, and it sounds like you are too, so
Oh, yeah.
yeah. It'll be
Today
nice
will
and
be
chill.
good, almost done with the LP part, where people can sense it in a voice like, oh yeah, they're done.
I don't think it has to do with the LP at all, really. For me, it's just I've been standing up and cooking all day, and I literally just finished cleaning up before we started. You okay?
Well, I've got like a carpal tunnel. You know, whenever that tendon in your thumb, like I was holding a controller a lot yesterday.
Oh,
Because,
repetitive strain injury.
yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Space Marine 2 came out
Oh, it
for
did. How
early
is it?
access people. It was pretty alright. It very similar to the original game. I wish there was more customization for the campaign. But you're playing as a filthy smurf ultramarine, so there's only so much you can do. But you can make your own like chapter colors and stuff like that in a PvP, and also in their sort of a PvE. Like there's a specific sort of mission mode that you can go on. I forget what it's called, but you can do it there too. So I was having
Okay.
some amount of fun with that until I got to the PvP, because that's where you earn the points that actually unlocks the colors and stuff. Started trying to do that, and then I remembered, yeah, this is why I don't like doing PvP in shooters.
Was it really bad?
No, I mean, it's standard PvP in a shooter. It's just the standard experience for me of no one is organized, everyone's just running off doing their own thing. And here I am trying to play the support character to help other people, and they're kind of just running around.
Oh, okay. Yes, gotcha.
So I'll be walking down a corridor and saying, well, everyone's on this side of the map, going in different directions. I'll head over there, and then suddenly a swarm of like 3 or 4 Chaos Marines suddenly appear in the corridor and just clobber me in the space of like half a second. Like, well, what did I do wrong? I guess nothing.
Probably nothing. When in doubt, it was your team's fault.
Yeah, that's my experience playing shooters.
It's pretty consistent with the maybe half hour of experience I have with those kinds of games in multiplayer too.
There is another game, Madcat, who just showed up. I was playing with him called Steel Hunters, which no one has heard of because they're not advertising it or anything. But you know, World of Tanks, the company that makes that, they had some sort of game mode called Steel Hunters, which wasn't that popular if I remember correctly. But they're releasing a game that is based on mechs instead of just tanks, and it has the same general premise, except it's sort of a BZ game in the sense of you're in a group of 2, and you drop down with, I think it's 5 other groups, or maybe 6. I think it's 5. And you have to eventually extract, and there can only be 1 group remaining. And it's slow enough paced, and it's, you know, just you and one other person, so it's hard to have that problem of first-person shooters or walking around and someone shooting you in the back or whatever. And if someone does shoot you in the back, you're in a big mech, so you don't die in 1 hit, which is something I like. So I do like shooters. They need to be slower paced for me and more methodical.
Just not Overwatch, right?
Yeah. So same problem I have with From Software games, I guess. Me and my methodical nonsense that I'm so preoccupied with.
Well, I don't know. This is the thing that has kind of... Like, I used to be into PvP and Demon Souls, right? And I liked the PvP in Dark Souls 1 when there were actually still people doing it. precisely because it was somewhat slower and more methodical than the PvP of the modern games, which is, I mean, we got to Dark Souls 2, which I've heard many people say has the best PvP of any Souls game, which I assure you was completely by accident. And then Bloodborne was like, yeah, hey, what if we just couldn't hit anyone? And then Dark Souls 3 was more of that, and then Elden Ring was, oh god, let's just spam weapon arts. Okay, I see.
Yeah, I mean, they have very different appeals. Demon Souls was more of the PvP is more wacky and like, oh god, what's going to happen next? You never know. Same general appeal that the game itself has.
Yeah, I always imagined like circus music playing during Demon Souls PvP, you know, just enter the gladiators in the background the whole time.
It is funny that the PvP sort of reflects the identity of the games in some ways. Because Dark Souls 1, whenever you're playing it, Dark Souls 1 PvP is fine so long as you don't know that backstab fishing exists and you don't know how to do it. When both people do, then it completely falls apart. Which sort of reflects how Dark Souls 1 works, where as long as you don't know how to break the game in specific ways, then the game works very well. Once you start trying to metagame everything, then it's going to fall apart.
Or if you don't know about poise.
Whereas 2 is sort of this accidental, wow, this is messy, but it sort of works, but there's other parts of it that are not working at all.
The PvE, for example.
I'd say the PvP worked much better than the PvE did, strangely enough. Also, the fact that the campaign works much better whenever you're playing with another person, which is part of it. So, PvP, same idea. Guess it goes hand in hand.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. I mean, I guess it's just the difference between the co-op experience and the single-player experience, isn't it?
Whereas I don't know what to say about 3.
I don't think anyone knows what to say about 3. I haven't kept...
Well, I'll say it this way. I briefly played some PvP in 3, and I found it enraging and very frustrating. Which is exactly how I view playing 3 in general, I guess. Just, it's not something I want to do.
At least your experience was consistent.
Yeah. Whereas in Bloodborne, of course, there's really no PvP at all.
I don't know anyone who ever spent time on Bloodborne PvP. People claimed...
I've had it, but it's always a pain for them to try to get it started.
Yeah, and then it's always the same. It's just people spamming quickstep everywhere and occasionally a gunshot, and then someone gets hit once and then quicksteps out of it, and a single match takes 15 minutes before anyone can hit anyone else, and then the host just dies to an enemy.
Sometimes it feels like there wasn't supposed to be PvP in Bloodborne, because the areas don't really support it most of the time, and it seems really inconsistent and spotty as to when you can do it and the other stuff.
So I think it was treated as an afterthought, even more so than it was in the previous games. And we were told, Miyazaki himself claimed in the interview that we did with him in the official strategy guide for Bloodborne, that they had an entire team, an internal team at FromSoft, dedicated to just designing the PvP experience in that game and just balancing it. You can read this in the...
Hey, Squish.
Good. Oh, hey, thanks for the gift sub, Squish. You can read this in the Future Press official strategy guide for Bloodborne in the interviews section, where Miyazaki, we specifically ask him, so what's the deal with the PvP in this game? And he says, yeah, so we had a whole team assigned to this. We wanted to make sure it was the best possible experience. And I personally think he was bullshitting us, because the way PvP turned out in Bloodborne, never have I felt to that degree that a system in a Souls game was bolted on after the fact.
Well, maybe, I guess it depends. The PvP team could have been in charge of just handling it and saying, can we actually fight each other and have it make some degree of sense, and does this work as a system? Whereas the actual implementation could have been something that was handled more by the level design. So it could have been a case of them not having enough control. I have no idea. Because wasn't there... I don't even remember how the system works. In PvP, there was the Bell Maidens or something, right?
Well, the Bell Maidens were sort of... They were intended to be tied to it a little more deeply than they ended up being, which is another thing that makes me suspect the PvP was actually really rushed, and their team must have been very small. And I think the most likely possibility is that you might be partly right that PvP was maybe designed in a vacuum as just a separate module, and then it was shoehorned in near the end of development, is the impression I get. Um, because, yeah, in order to be able to be summoned or to be invaded, you had to use the bells. And the bells were basically the same system as summon signs and stones, except that they seem to be less reliable. Like, that game had really unreliable netcode, even worse than other FromSoft games, which is impressive.
I remember being invaded a couple times, but that's it. I don't really remember anything about it other than going, ugh, yes. But that's what I always feel whenever I'm invaded.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it was worse in Bloodborne because invasions were just all the same. There's really not a lot of build diversity in Bloodborne. Everyone can basically teleport all over the place, and everyone has guns with redonkulous amounts of ammo, and it was the same thing over and over again. It felt like playing Street Fighter, where you could only select Ken or Ryu.
And my impression of PvP in Elden Ring is basically just, the weapon art system cranked up to max, and just here comes the particle cloud.
Yeah, pretty much. Hey,
yeah.
do you want to spam L2? Good. Play Elden Ring. Enjoy.
Yep. So, anyways, point being, Space Marine 2, good game. I don't want to PvP unless I absolutely have to, or if I have someone with me that really likes PvPing and they're good at it, so I can just walk alongside them. Because I've found that whenever I'm with someone else that knows exactly what they're doing, I'm very good at supporting things, because I kind of like doing that in the first place, supporting other players. But whenever it's me and they're telling me, you go lead us, and they don't know what's going on, like, well, I really don't. Alright, fine, I guess. Then that's when it falls apart.
Yeah, well, I mean, democratically elected leader, at least they can't complain that you usurp the position.
Yeah. That said, that Steel Hunters game that I was talking about, something that we found very strange, I was streaming it in Discord, and I can't remember who it was, pointed out, something seems amiss because, don't take this the wrong way, you aren't that good to be winning every single match. Because that's what was happening. Every single time that we queued up for PvP, we were winning every single time.
Okay.
And some of that was because, one, I think they were adding a lot of AI enemies in there as well. And they admitted
is it
that
the kind of game that'll balance out a team with bots?
Well, they were saying in their Discord later that they were populating some of the matches with bots, and you could always tell the difference because one of them would just stand there while you were shooting them, whereas whereas the other one, like, you could shoot someone, then suddenly they would start panicking and jumping up and down or something, and like, okay, that's a human. But even with humans, it looked like the skill level wasn't quite there, because every so often you come across someone that seemed to know generally what they were doing. But also part of it was I have a history of... I used to do competitive PvP back in... Fight chess with the devil. I used to play competitive PvP back in World of Tanks before the era of autoloaders and stuff. Like right before all that. Before the French tanks came out, if anyone knows what the hell I'm talking about. And after that, the game started getting a little bit more obsessed with speed, which is usually what chases me away from most games, whenever they try to make everything more actiony. And the game now is way more actiony. It's very fast, and they don't like things like stealth mechanics and scouting and things of that nature. And now almost everyone is running gold rounds, which almost completely circumvent the armor mechanics of the game.
Really?
And as a result, that's what I liked about World of Tanks initially, is that you could do things like know exactly, oh, my Capella on the turret is, 325 millimeters or something, so as long as I'm hull down, then I can ensure that I get ricochets at this specific angle. And then you could play the map and your positioning in such a way that you basically made yourself next to invincible. as long as you knew exactly what you're doing, and people were very adamant about fighting you from that one position. And you had to rely on your teammates to make sure that you could hold that position. But whenever someone could just look at you and go, I'm firing real money at you, here's $1, pow, and he just goes right through all your armor, then
Is that
all
what
that
gold
falls
rounds
apart.
are? Really?
Yeah, they're just advanced rounds that cost more money, cost real money, and but they made it so that then you could buy them with credits as opposed to real money, but the rate is so high that you effectively need to spend real money anyways to be able to keep up the amount of credits that you need to repair your tanks and still make an income and so on. So that's what the game is now.
Wow.
Anyways,
Okay.
I have a lot of experience doing things like that. I'm much better at slow, methodical shooters that are like medium paced as opposed to ones that are just someone saw you 3 kilometers away and they sniped you while you were collecting something off the ground, which is sort of my
Okay.
PUBG experience for things like that. So it was a combination of things. Whether or not I'm going to be winning any matches at all whenever Steel Hunters actually comes out, I have no idea. Because they just closed their doors, I think, yesterday. You can't join their Discord anymore, and they said that they're closing up their alphas, which tells me that they're probably going to start opening up a beta in probably a few months.
Oh, when
They'll
you
probably
say
actually
close their
start
doors,
advertising.
I thought you were talking about the studio closing, because there's
No,
been a
for a
lot of
split,
that lately.
yeah, for a split second, I thought that they were whenever I got the notice. It's like, okay, are they just, do they fail at this? And then I realized, no, they seem to be setting up for a marketing push.
Okay.
Because that's something I was very confused by, because I'd never heard of the game before, and it looks fairly good, and I enjoyed playing it, but, you know, I just had never heard of it before. So it seems to be completely word of mouth for the time being.
I mean, I guess the devs can't afford marketing money at this point. And
Well, it's wargaming. You think that they have tons of money.
do they?
Because every game that they have has always been a gold gouging game, where they have reinforced extreme grinds, where you're at...
Oh,
There are some cases in Old World of Tanks where you could buy a new tank, and it was almost completely worthless, because the gun that you start with cannot penetrate other tanks at that tier. It just can't. Not unless you're like looking directly at their tailpipe, effectively.
okay.
And I think that's gotten a little bit better over time. But they effectively made that so that you absolutely had to spend money in order to eclipse that grind. Otherwise, you would have to play like 50, 100 matches and just spend weeks grinding your experience up to be able to get the actual gun that's supposed to go on it. That way you could actually play that tank correctly. And most of the games, I don't know what they're like now, but most of them were designed that way back in the day. So
Okay.
they earned a lot of money doing that.
So this is one of those developers then, just games as a service,
Yep.
microtransactions front and center. Okay, I see.
You got it.
Ah.
Although I did always prefer it to War Thunder, because back then at least, War Thunder, if you tried to play as a tank, it started out as a flight sim, so I understand why tanks
That's
didn't
what
work
I
at the time.
thought. Yeah, wasn't that like a flying game?
Yeah. So whenever they added tanks, the problem is you were effectively, I don't know how they handled the coding, but it felt like you were a plane on the ground. So you would slide on the ground whenever you were going anywhere. What it feels like now, I have no idea. I'm going to assume it's much better, because it's been doing a lot better in more recent years. I haven't tried it since then, though. But anyways.
Well, I suspect that the results that you were getting in the PvP in this game were as skewed as they were because it's a new game, right? Like, there's people are always catching up on the skill curve at the beginning, right at launch. No, this is something I've heard Wooly talk about quite a lot in the context of fighting games, where new game comes out, you've got like a week or 2 or 3 where everyone is learning, and then people cap out their skill ceilings, and then you start getting the killers who are out there, and everyone else is still catching up. Is that not the same thing, you think?
Probably not, because most of the people that were playing were people that had played through multiple alphas. Whereas this was the
Ah,
first one that I had ever run into.
I
So your
see.
guess is as good as mine. I don't know. It could be that it's one of these games that has what they call lower skill expression. Whereas if you play like a typical first-person shooter, you have people that are just living aimbots. And, some of the most famous Twitch streamers, for example, are like living aimbots where you can be watching their screen and suddenly they see a pixel move for like one frame on the side of their vision, and they just immediately just whoop, right up to his head, like 2 kilometers away, pull trigger, he's dead. They don't even think about it. It's because there's just something about the way that their brains work. That's how they programmed their brains from the moment that they could hold a controller. So they're just amazing at them. Whereas with me, I don't see things that way. I was having this weird experience. We were playing Pummel Party, which is a little sort of Mario Party-esque game, over Discord the other day. And there's one specific mini game on that where I'm, for some reason, very good at that mini game and not much else. And it's this game where a baseball approaches and you have to hit the baseball. And it has to align perfectly with the little dot in the center of the screen. And for some reason, I'm really good at that. And I was sitting there thinking, why this? And this isn't a matter of me. I'm so great at it. Who gives a shit about this one baseball game?
Sure.
But I kind of thought about it. It's like, I've always thought that the way that I see things when I'm tracking information in video games is different from most people. Because especially with first-person shooters, I can see like motion really easily. I can see blobs like moving across the screen, and I can instantly recognize that something has changed. So if I'm like motionless looking what I'm doing now, I'm looking at the screen, and then something unique happens, I can spot it almost immediately, whereas other people will sort of struggle to do that. But if it's something particular, like I need to aim it ahead, I can't do that. Because there's something about the fidelity in my brain where if I try to track it with my hand, I just am shooting in the general area of the blob as opposed to something very specific on the actual shape. And I don't know how to describe that in any other way. But I've noticed that whenever I play games, it always seems to come up. I'm very good at one particular kind of thing when I'm tracking information visually that other people aren't very good at, but when it comes to what most things are, like tracking ahead in a first-person shooter, I am garbage. I can't do that. I thought at first it's because I was an old man, but I've always had that problem. So who knows what it is? Doesn't matter.
I think
But
you and I
interesting
might have
episode.
just been born old men.
Possibly. Whenever I was younger, I was described as such. I told people in high school that I was born to be old.
It's funny you
Just
say
waiting to
that.
catch up.
Yeah, I was also told very similar things, that I sounded a lot older than I was, just the way that I spoke and how tired I was of like everything.
No, not that.
So
Accidentally
yeah,
using
that's a good point. Where are we headed next?
I don't know. Last time we did 2-2, I think, is what we
Yeah,
did.
we cleared
We got
most
through
of
a Flame Lurker.
Stonefang. In fact, we did Flame Lurker, I think.
Yes, Flame Lurker is done.
So now we can go to the blacksmith and get you your upgrades if we haven't already.
Well, I've already gotten the Blessed Hammer.
Okay.
It is at +3 at the moment. Blessed Mirrodin Hammer +3. So we have 1-3, and then 2-4, which we can't do yet if I remember, because of the fog.
Correct.
And we haven't done Latria at all.
Right. And you've got your pure faint stone already, so you probably only need a few more chunks until you can get to +5 with that weapon.
And 4-4? Because we did Old Hero. Is there a 4-4? That's it, isn't it?
4 would be Shadowmen. There's Storm King.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, so after Old Hero would be 4-3.
And we've already done Dirty Colossus, so we've got cleanup to do on almost every one of these.
Yeah.
But the only one that we haven't done at all is Latria.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay, so... And there
yes,
was,
this is...
there was something that I think that you needed in Latria?
Oh, the Ring of Magical Sharpness. It's not a huge deal. We'll get there when we get there.
Okay. Is there anything... Let's see. Is there anything else of pertinence? Because I think I'm kind of done with the build. I just need enough to be able to actually wear clothing.
Right.
I can find myself too. Or is MP a little? I could do that.
Yeah,
Fragrant ring.
ideally you'd want the fragrant ring in place of the ring of Herculean strength. But
Yeah, it was
whenever you
Thieves
get
ring.
there.
That's what I've been using. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So where should we be going then?
I mean, let's clean up the rest of the Archstone of the Shadow Men. Let's go get the Storm King out of the way. That's an easy fight.
And always fun. Always like that one.
Yeah, the Storm Ruler is one of the few good gimmick fights in any of the Souls games.
Mm-hmm. So old hero Archstone.
Yep, old hero Archstone, and you're going in human form, yeah?
Yes. Are you inhuman at the moment?
Yes, but that's I would just as soon undo that. So I'll give me a minute to KMS.
Get into my new clothes. Get out of my pajamas.
Yeah.
Get over there now. Okay. So the topic of discussion going to this area will probably be gimmick fights and why they work and don't work.
And why FromSoft managed to pull off a really good one and a really bad one in the same game.
Same game, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
I need to put on the face ring in this area because we still have those naughty little guys.
Oh, yes. Yeah, they're gonna constantly be a pain if we don't have that on.
Very good. Okay. Yep, they did one good one, one bad one. Although I don't mind Dragon God as much as other people.
I mean, honestly, I kind of like Old Monk as well. I feel like that was a fairly well done gimmick fight.
Yeah.
Barring the possibility that you get invaded by someone who just scraping spear acid clouds the hell out of you.
Yep. That's why you don't do that.
Yeah, but like, I thought the concept was really cool of the Old Monk, and I've been involved in some Old Monk invasions that were actually a lot of fun and that were pretty hilarious. But that, again, it kind of comes back to people not taking it overly seriously. Like, I've had fist fight Old Monk invasions that were essentially just boxing matches with no weapons.
Oh,
I've had
just go right into it.
Yep. Yeah, once you go through that fog, you're right there. So you might want to quit to the menu, because I can't put my sign down anywhere except that little hallway right before the fog gate.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Good old FromSoft.
Yeah, this is one of the things that they refined in the later games, and with good reason.
Lovely.
Yeah, isn't it?
Just this one hole. It's right here, and that's it.
Yep, just this tiny little hallway this is literally, this hallway is 4-3. It's the entire stage.
Yeah.
All right, I'll put my sign down. Hmm?
I have seen people in the past complain about Storm King, about how it's not hard enough, but that's also pre me coming to an understanding of people wanting different things of the experience. Some people wanting the games to be boss challenges, and some people just wanting it to be a general adventure.
Well, it's also coming from the perspective of people who are looking at the game 15 years after its original release, and
Probably
knowing
know what to do when they go in as well.
Yeah, having a ton of foreknowledge about it, and knowing all of the having access to the knowledge base that the community has amassed over the last 15 years on how to make this fight trivially easy. You know, back in the day, and you and I were around early enough to remember when people didn't know how to do this fight, you know? I did this fight completely blind because at the time there was no knowledge base. I was among the first people who started posting videos with information about this. Prior to that, there was just the Game FAQs message board, and...
Oh, look at this.
Right?
Demon Souls.
Yep, good old Havoc physics. So when I did this fight, I didn't know any of the tech the first time, and I went in and I got killed by the Storm Beasts a whole bunch before I finally found the Storm Ruler at the end of the arena, and then realized, oh wait, I'm playing as a royal. I could just use Soul Arrow.
And slowly piecemeal your way through its health bar.
Yeah, and then after probably playing through the game 5 or 6 times, I figured out the little spot where you can hide that the storm beast can't hit you, and you can use the little ruined house as cover and just snipe them.
Audio's getting futzy.
Oh yes, probably the emulation. The cutscene is janking out too, because 30 FPS is the original frame rate.
I'd almost be tempted to get my PS3 running, actually play through the Archstone servers, but I don't think I'd need the sound of a plane taking off in the LP audio.
No, and you probably wouldn't want to tax your poor PS3.
I do like its design. The big eyeball is reminiscent of a Zelda design to me. They get really obsessed with one giant eyeball as the weak point.
Yeah, it does kind of remind me a little bit of a Goma.
Yeah, and the Majora's Mask 3D remake, they got really obsessive about that, and they put a giant eyeball on all the bosses, even though they didn't have them in the original. Got a little bit overboard. I was going to say... Oh, right. That when it comes to... Oh, don't. When it comes to, like, puzzle bosses, they're pretty hard to pull off. Because effectively it comes down to knowing a trick. Also, it seems like we go over here first, don't we?
Hang on, sorry, I've got to mute myself.
Okay. In that case, I'll go here, because I remember this is safe.
Sorry, there were a bunch of fire trucks or something going by. Yeah, the house on your right is safe, that little ruined square building. If you stand in the corner, the storm beast cannot hit you.
That's it. Arrow.
Yep.
This seems like it would be safe right there, too.
Yeah, anywhere behind this wall, although behind the wall makes it harder to hit the storm beast. My preferred spot is right in this corner, because here you're completely safe, and then you can just duck out and...
I didn't bring a bow. Anyways, when it comes to puzzle boss fights, it basically just comes down to designing around a simple, like a solution. And I was thinking about that the other day in relation to like how Zelda enemies are designed, Zelda bosses, because they kind of do the same thing. Because I've been giving a lot of thought lately to the difference between like a Zelda boss and a FromSoft boss, because they're so radically different. Yet they're kind of FromSoft bosses in some ways you could argue are sort of based off the old Ocarina design, since that game influenced so much. With Zelda bosses, usually it comes down to you're given an item in that stage, and then the boss somehow orients around that item.
Right,
you're given a giant hammer.
Shot or, yeah.
And then a dragon is popping its head out of holes, and you have to hit it in the head with the hammer. And once you figure that out, then it becomes very simple, and then you just waltz through the boss, and you can do it without taking any damage, even if you're like 6 years old. Very simple.
Good old Volvagia.
Mm-hmm. Or in the case of, like the Water Temple, you get a hookshot, and you use the hookshot to pull that little orb out of the water, and that's the thing you actually want to hit. But the process of actually figuring that out can take a long time. Because you can stand
there... Let alone
there...
the process of actually getting through the Water Temple with all those miserable current puzzles.
Mm-hmm. I'll let you take care of these little guys.
Yep,
I forgot to bring a bow.
That's okay. I came prepared.
Like me. God, look at those things sticking out.
Yep.
So a lot of the process of doing a puzzle boss like that, because Zelda games are way more puzzle than they are action. Which is why the items usually play such a big role. You're expected to have a bunch of items and know what they all do, and then see a new enemy and go, it's probably this thing that works on him. And usually it's one or two items that work fairly well, and then there's one that has like a particular interaction, like a hookshot may stun an enemy, but it doesn't really kill them. So you have lots of little actions that can sort of work. It kind of comes down to what you prefer having on your bar.
Yeah, and then usually, like you say, the item that you get in a particular dungeon, you can count on that being what you need to beat the boss of that dungeon.
With Storm King here, you can... Oh, here he is.
Yeah, here he is. You okay?
Yeah. With Storm King here... Also, I forgot how loud this boss is.
Yeah, you want to talk about a jet engine. This is like a B-52 flying by over your house.
It is very impressive how big this thing is, though.
They were able to achieve that, I think, because it's a flying boss and it doesn't have to stand on the ground. It doesn't have to function the way a standing boss would. It doesn't really even have to move all that much. It basically just flies in an elliptical pattern and makes a bombing run every time it comes towards us.
But with the design of this arena... Oh, shit. I did notice the spears are also sort of shaped exactly like little flying guys.
They are. They're larval storm beasts is
Yeah.
what it's shooting at us.
This I was about to say, it looks like they're larvae. I was going to say, with the solution to this one, I feel like the weapon that you pick up should have probably been something that was more like an area like this, where you're running around the arena, but nothing seems to really be a defense, so you're drawn naturally to a place where you can't hide out.
Yeah, I feel like this was their attempt to provide a solution for pretty much everyone, regardless of their build.
Yeah. You don't really want people hiding inside of the building, just doing nothing but essentially what you're doing, which is just like plucking away at it very slowly. So as a result, you could probably see this as being the solution erroneously, which is a problem that designers usually have with designing their games, where they get really preoccupied with how do we make sure that all players are aware that this is what is intended, which, as we mentioned last time, that's where the yellow paint problem comes from. Because there's lots of players that will say, oh yeah, that was easy, I found it my first time through. And they think, oh, it's because I'm so smart and everyone's so dumb at me. But sometimes it's just a matter of your camera just so happened to veer in the right direction, and you saw the thing that the other person didn't see because they weren't looking at that particular spot, that particular moment.
I've had moments like that quite frequently, where the only reason I figured out the solution to a puzzle was that I happened to look in the correct direction at the correct time to see something.
Yeah, so this is what I'm thinking when it comes to where do you put the sword in this area. I probably would have put it somewhere where you absolutely would want to end up as a source of protection. Like, for example, this item right here, great spot to put this. Because it's not obvious, but you want to use this big pillar as a way of defending yourself. So you're naturally drawn to it, and if you look around, there's a little item.
Yeah, they do kind of breadcrumb you with the items in this boss room. They tempt you to want to go grab the storm ruler from over. But then...
Would you like to come down here and help me get these crystal lizards, by the way?
Yes, I will come join you. Let me put the thief's ring on, though, because that's quite essential for this. Oh, well, didn't
you
nearly
weren't
make
thiefy
it.
enough, my friend.
No, I made the mistake of trying to put the thief's ring on before ducking into cover. Whoops.
Okay. Well, I guess it's up to me.
It is, sadly.
Man, look at all this dust. Pretty good effect.
Yeah, this is one of the arenas where I really feel like they nailed the vibe.
Now it's just high. Where's the other one? Probably already ran off. Yep, I don't know where it went. Lovely.
These guys only drop dark moonstone, which you don't need.
Yes, but I wanted it.
Fair.
This is the curse of the completionist. Well, you didn't need it, yes, but it was there. By not getting it, that's a sign of failure. It means I have to start over my save file to go get it now. That's how the brain works. And it's maddening. Now, Stormruler. And also, heaven help you if you pick this thing up and you haven't cleaned your inventory and you just don't know where it is anymore.
Or you get killed before you can clean your inventory and you lose it.
Does it have? Yes. Storm Root.
Because I've seen that happen to a couple of people.
A legendary large sword with a thorny blade, named for one who calms storms. It is said the ancestors of the Shadow Man rended the storms and the clouds in the sky with it. Now abandoned, much of its power lost, it is an average large sword. Well, however, it is used in the Monolith Forest. Monolith Forest. Where ancestral spirits slumber, you may be able to reawaken its ancient power to rend the sky. So this is the Monolith Forest?
Yeah, these aren't really properly monoliths, they're obelisks because they have writing on them. And we, way back in the day, we analyzed the actual writing on the monoliths, and it turns out that it's just gibberish, but the runes that are used there are real. They're a combination of some Futhark runes and then some other runes from different points in history, and possibly also some Hebrew letters, if I remember correctly. It was years and years ago that this analysis was done. But this is Miyazaki using real-life artistic influences to create something that looks impressive, but there's no hidden message.
Unfortunately, my game audio is so nightmarishly loud, I can't hear what you're saying sometimes.
Oh no, I'm so sorry.
Well, it's mainly just because the audio gets cranked up so high whenever I'm doing this.
You might adjust the in-game audio settings.
I'm gonna have to. I was commenting before we got started that it seemed like everything was way too loud. It's one of these older games where if you adjust it by 1 point, suddenly it's so quiet that you can't hear anything either way.
Yep, this is how it's always gone. I tended to find that even when I was playing this by myself, I had to turn the volume down to at least 3.
Huh, nothing happened that time. It is a cool effect. I think part of the reason why this puzzle boss works so well is because of how good it feels to actually use it, especially if it took you a while to figure out where it is.
Yeah, and once you read the description of the sword and you know what it's doing and why, you're like, oh man, this is what the ancient Shadow Men must have felt like when they rent the clouds in the sky. I feel so cool. Like, you feel powerful, because this is something you can't use anywhere else.
Whoa. Yeah. He doesn't like it.
No, he doesn't. And this is also kind of the point in the game where you realize, well, wait a minute. The demons were created by the Old One, and they appear to be created from the thoughts of living people based on deities that people worshipped or believed in.
Yeah.
But then you get here...
Slack Tulpa rules.
Yes,
people
exactly.
Conceived of it.
And then you get here, and you find the Storm Ruler, and you pick up the Storm Ruler, which is this ancient weapon used by the Shadow Men long before modern civilization. And it actually has the power that it says it has, and you use it, and you use that power, and you're like, oh, okay. So, the demons aren't the only source of magic here, maybe.
Nice.
Well done.
The demon was destroyed. The noise has been conquered. Yeah, I've noticed that the audio was actually getting so high that it was like starting to distort. As though the volume in the engine was being cranked up too high, if that makes any sense. It wasn't a matter of it being rendered in emulation correctly or not. Very odd.
Yeah, I think there are some environments where they add audio effects, and possibly where they adjust audio levels dynamically as you enter or leave an area, because I know that's the kind of thing that they do in some of the later games, so I wouldn't be surprised if they were doing it here and if it's just not interacting well with the emulation.
I saw a Phantom for a split second doing the exact same animation I was doing.
It wasn't me. I'm back at the entrance.
Yeah, it never feels good to have a puzzle boss that, well, one, I was thinking about this the other day. One of the things about having any sort of puzzle element to any encounter is if you expect players to. I was thinking about this in relation to Capra Demon. This Illusory Wall released a video about that recently, and I started thinking about it. About the nature of it sort of being a puzzle boss, which I don't really agree with in the sense of, I don't know if it was intended that way. You can make it that way, certainly. But something I was thinking about is that you always need a period of evaluation whenever you enter a boss fight like that, where it requires some sort of puzzle, figuring it out moment, where you're not being attacked. It's an old rule, like in, say, like a Resident Evil game, that if you're having to do some sort of puzzle to, like, put things inside of a statue to get its eyes to glow so it turns around and reveals, a ladder, whatever it is.
Right.
You absolutely have to give the player the ability to do that without zombies leaping on your back and stabbing you while you're trying to do it. Because you can't do those two things at the same time. You can't sit there and, expect them to contemplate how do I solve this, while at the same time expect them to fully devote all their mental processes to aiming and dealing with their inventory and everything else. And to me, that's where Capra Demon falls apart as a puzzle encounter, if you're going to view it that way, is if you walk out onto, say, a balcony, and then you look down and said, oh, there's a guy there, and oh, look, there's two dogs. Then sure, you could then go, well, maybe whenever I dive down, I can do this and this, and you come up with some sort of plan, and you have the time to do it, and the enemies haven't seen you yet. But because you walk through the fog wall and just immediately they're on top of you, sure, you can do things that are puzzly in the sense of, tossing like an alluring skull, for example, something like that. But you really don't have the time to start trying to do it, and you can't process that as you're going through the fog in the first place. So it falls apart as a puzzle element. With Storm King just then, you walk in, you're not getting attacked right away, even if you don't have the Thief's Ring on, which reminds me I need to take that off. Oh, there it is. So you don't have to worry about that element of it. And you also have the ability to, find safety to the point where you're completely invincible. You could even go AFK in that fight, and it's not really a big deal.
I have, yes.
Yeah. So you're safe. You can treat it as a puzzle fight. So that's one component of it too. And of course, whenever you figure out the solution, there's still one element of danger, but it's really not that much danger, especially whenever you have so many opportunities to try it on the smaller enemies too. So you don't have to worry about the big guy until you are ready to try to take care of him yourself. And even then, it's enough danger to where you can die, but it's more of a feeling of empowerment. It gives you that, as opposed to it being about the challenge. So, in some ways, I'd see the Storm King as being a victory lap for that level. That's one reason why it works.
I agree with the Storm King being a victory lap, although I wonder how intentional it was on the devs' part for that to be the case. It's a victory lap for you and I, because we know how to handle the fight, like we know what to do, even though I just died and embarrassed myself horribly in front of everyone, and my reputation is ruined now as an original member of the Souls community. But,
I'm gonna throw myself off, by the way.
Okay. Take your time, I'm here whenever.
Okay.
But like, we know what to do, and so this fight is, LP tax notwithstanding, this fight is basically free. But again, I've even recently, within the last few years, especially after the remake came out and more people started playing this, or some form of it, I watched people do their first playthroughs of this game on Twitch. I've watched people stream their first playthroughs of Demon's Souls in like 2022, 2023, and to see someone who does not know anything about the game approach the game, things
I
that
expect them to struggle.
Yeah, like things that you and I consider to be trivial are like things we wouldn't consider to be puzzles. I've seen people handle them very much like puzzles, you know?
Yeah, the importance of having those little safety moments where you can actually stop and think.
Yeah.
If you're designing, then yeah, that's the problem. Is how do you make sure? Because, like I said, some people walk in and they'll just immediately know what the solution is. Because some people might see it as they're coming in, like, oh, there's an item over there. Or there's a crystal lizard. because that's what the crystal lizards are for. It's to get you to run over there to try to attack them, and it draws you even closer to that weapon.
Yep.
And whereas some other people will just think, "Oh God, I'm getting shot. I need to find safety," and they find the little shack, whatever you want to call it, the ruins, and that's where they stay because they're just terrified of leaving. So they'll just spend the next hour running back and forth, like dying and then respawning and going back in and going back to that little safety net and desperately trying to fight their way out. Whereas they never knew that there was something on the other side of the arena. So as a developer, you have to internally say, okay, let's say 25% of our players will instantly know what the solution is because they lucked out or, just heard about it from someone else or whatever. The rest, how do we direct them over here? And some of that is the design of the arena. Some of it is placing little things like crystal lizards. Some of it is visibility of the glowing thing in the distance. Enemy placement, like everything works together, and you have to be very careful on how you place everything. Because as a developer, you're instantly going to know how to handle the situation regardless. So there's no way for you to design it and then step away from it, totally forget it, and then approach it as a clean slate and go, did this work or not? There's just no way for you to really know.
Well, that's what QA is for, and
Yeah.
playtesting.
It's very important.
But yeah, and honestly, I think they handled it pretty well here. They give you plenty of signposting, and they also, even if you don't get the message from the signposting, they give you an alternative. They don't leave you without any recourse, regardless of your build. Like, if you show up and you have no ranged options, and you see a flying enemy, the only thing that there really is for you to do is explore the boss arena. And when you explore, you're going to find those crystal lizards, you're going to find the items leading you off to the precipice overlooking the ocean, and then you're going to see that cool sword sticking out of the ground, and probably you're going to see some messages along the way that say weapon ahead or something like that, right? All right, let's see. Not seeing anything yet.
Okay. Typical Demon Souls problems.
Yeah, I'll quit to the title screen and reload and see if I can get it to show up. But this boss arena actually, I feel like, is fairly well thought out. I feel like they considered all of the primary possibilities and even a couple of edge cases that could screw someone over who's coming in and leave you without a way to beat the boss, and they gave you an answer to all of that.
Same thing with, since I mentioned it, Capra Demon. I can see someone going into that fight and just clearing it on their first attempt, and they don't see what the problem is. And I can see someone else going there and having a problem with it and spending an entire day trying to get past it. I've even had playthroughs where I go in, and I've cleared Capra like 100 times by now, and I'll go in and I'll just immediately get slammed just because. Why I think Illusory Wall was making the video to counter the idea that it's RNG, which I don't agree with. Some of it is random, but only in the sense of the animations can be random. So sometimes the dogs will deviate a little bit left or right, and it's not always clear-cut exactly how you can get in there. But there's been some cases where I walk in, I dodge that first attack cleanly, and then a couple of those dogs just latch right onto my throat, and they're just there. And I'll die as a result on the first try.
Yeah, there are all manner of random factors that can go into it besides the RNG of, enemy AI behavior. It's like, well, you went in 3 inches to the left of where you went in last time, and then because of that had technically a predictable effect on the direction the dog's AI was going to path, which caused them to have slightly different attack timing, which caused them to hit you right before you raised your shield. So, some of that is down to just differences, very, very slight differences in what the player does, and some of it is down to, the AI had 2 or 3 possibilities for what it could have done in this situation, and this time it went with possibility B or C instead of A.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so...
Which is typically why you want to clear enemies away from where the player is entering. Especially if they've been there 0 times and they have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, like Capra, My first time fighting Capra Demon, when I first did my very first playthrough of Dark Souls 1, I think I was stuck on that fight for a couple of hours just because I kept getting killed within 15 seconds of walking into the arena. And then I put on a shield, because of course I hate shields, I was using a two-handed weapon. I put on a shield and I went in and blocked the dog's attacks and rolled through the Capras, and it was fine. You know, and I went, oh, I see. I understand now.
It also depends on your poise values and the stability of the shield.
Yeah, I was running a low poise build at that point because I had no idea how poise worked, so I paid for that.
Yeah. Also, your options for poise are not that great early on. You can't go out of your way to like get certain sets of armor that have high poise, but that's something that you would probably only do if you are very aware of how the game works and its second or third playthrough and so on.
Yeah.
I wouldn't really count that amongst the solutions that are not viable, but are reasonable for a design solution.
Yeah, solutions you could expect the average player to figure out.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the baseline for developers is, well, how good is the average player going to be at figuring out what we intend for them to see or do here? Because there, of course, as you say, there are going to be the real OG players who are super attuned to the mechanics of the game. They'll pick it up much faster. They'll have a better idea of what to be watching out for. They'll maybe pay closer attention to their surroundings, and they'll pick up on the cues faster. And then there's everyone else.
Getting this crystal lizard.
Okay.
Did you get the other one?
No, I ran around them so I could get them later.
Well, yeah, I only ran in once I noticed they started to run.
That's fine. I probably triggered both of them when I ran by. This arena is set up so that you are forced to walk into the aggro range of the crystal lizards, so that they always will start running away when you get to a certain point in the arena. And the idea behind that is they're positioned so that they'll lead you straight to the Storm Ruler if you chase them.
You can go up that way. Wait, can you go this way? No, you can't.
Ah,
So you have to go
Storm
back this
Ruler,
way.
my first love. So yeah, we can. We're going to go back to the ruins here, and I'll show you the other way of handling this. And now that you've got your Storm Ruler, we can do this together.
Oh no, I put it away.
Oh, you did? Why?
Why not? This is your boss
Because
fight.
you knew you were about to go do this again.
Yeah, I didn't even bring a bow. I'm just here for emotional support. This is
Oh,
your
good.
job.
Okay.
See,
Thanks.
I'm emotionally supporting you. You got the arrow to your face, and you're still doing a good job.
Yeah. Right. Thanks for the emotional support, Eli. I
problem.
appreciate it.
But while you do that, I was
Let me
trying to lead
guess, you're
into
going to go
talking about
AFK and get some food. Is that it?
Here. In regards to Capra, I was contemplating how to actually make that a more overtly puzzle boss. And I don't think it would really work with the way that, Capra works itself. But the idea of, like a boss that has two little henchmen works fine, because that's generally how Ornstein Smough work. Is one enemy that moves at one speed, and then another enemy that moves at another speed. And you can split them out that way. There's also the element of Capra is in a very tight space. So if you treated him in the same way as the enemies in like Dark Souls 2, if you remember the ones that had the Orma and Reeve Great Shield.
Oh yes, the guys in the crypt.
Yeah, you could treat them like that, where a Capra basically is standing in one position and you have to figure out how do I get past this guy. It's one type of way that you could organize that. But again, it wouldn't really work the way that he's designed as is, and not for that arena. But it's one avenue that you could take it.
Yeah, I mean, Capra is... There is a silly old video that I watched many years ago that I'm not going to try and dig up now because I don't want to take everyone's time. But it's a video on... it's essentially poking fun at the Mega Man series and at how stupid Dr. Wily is for not just designing a boss that's just a room full of spikes on every wall that Mega Man walks into and immediately steps on spikes because the entire room is spikes, and he just dies. And I feel like that's kind of what Capra is.
Yeah, there's many video game things where why does Eggman not simply populate the world with spikes, or why does Bowser not simply remove his bridge, his drawbridge, and so on.
Yeah, yeah.
Ooh, oh, shit, almost got me.
Well, see, here's why this fight becomes trivial, because as he's flying by, we just stand behind this wall, and he can't do a damn thing to us. Mind you, I missed him every time, but you can hit him through the wall when you're completely protected.
There we go. Oh, yeah. You get your MP back at an okay rate. It's not that bad.
With the Cling Ring? Or the Fragrant Ring, rather?
Fragrant Ring, yeah. It's not...
It's really not a bad amount of MP regen, especially considering how little MP the damage-dealing spells in this game cost to cast. Right about now. There it is. You can hit him 3 times with this weapon on each pass that he makes. Huh?
The back of... Like, his back almost looks like it has feathers. Even though it's designed to look sort of manta ray-ish.
I think it's supposed to look like he has feathers. Yeah, they're, because he's got these iridescent... I can't tell if quite they're maybe supposed to be scales or feathers, but it looks like feathers are possibly the intent.
I really do appreciate that he looks alien. He's not really... He's clearly like manta ray-esque, mostly. But he doesn't really specifically look like anything otherwise.
Yeah, he looks a little bit like a manta ray, but he's clearly something different.
Also appreciate the fact that it isn't on all fours leaping around the arena screeching at me. That's very nice.
Or standing on 2 legs just swinging a sword in completely unpredictable arcs, yeah. Or like doing really delayed attacks, or then just doing a spinning attack that you can't dodge. Oop. I forgot one. I'll fix that.
I don't want that.
So, someone sped up some of the sound effects from this game and discovered that stuff like the noises the Storm King makes. I think the noise the Storm King makes is a cow mooing, but just pitched down. And then the groan that the old one makes at the very end when the pit in the Nexus is opened is actually a baby crying that's pitched down.
Goodness, I'm glad those things don't have a big AoE.
They don't have a huge AoE, but they have a little bit of a splash radius.
Huh. Is it spawning a new one every so often?
A new Storm Beast? No, there are a fixed number of them in the battlefield.
Yeah, I guess there's just a couple over here that don't want to come over this way.
Well, they all follow predetermined paths. They all patrol a set route. And the ones over there where you're standing don't patrol close enough to the ruins here for me to be able to reach them with the Storm Ruler. But they're also not worth killing for that reason, because they don't come close enough to be a threat.
Whoop. Now, why does, I guess we'll get to him later, but why does the Dragon God not work as a puzzle boss?
Well, there are a couple of reasons for that, but I mean, I have my opinion on why, which might differ from yours.
I've never had much of a problem with him. I've always kind of liked the fact that I am not really challenged by him, and it's more of just another spectacle puzzle boss. Not even really a puzzle exactly. It's more just to wander around the arena until you find the thing to interact with, and I think that's where I would say my problem with it comes in.
Well, the thing about the Dragon God is...
Oh, I did.
Oh, no.
It got me just the right way.
Oh, I saw, yeah, just on your, oh, I'm sorry. Well, at least it wasn't just me.
Got me my footsies.
So, the problem with the Dragon God to me, and I also know how to, clear that fight usually without much trouble. The problem is it's not consistent. And the problem is it's easy enough to tell on the surface what you're supposed to do, but the exact motions you have to go through in order to do that are not what they look like they should be. And the hitboxes of his fists when he punches are way different than where it appears he should be hitting. You can be literally 10 feet away from where he's punching, and you'll still get hit every time. And the places that are supposed to be safe are not the places that look like they're safe.
So you're saying that the nature of the player treating it like a puzzle, as in seeing what is to be done, then having the expectation that something will work, and it not corresponding to that at all, is why it's falling apart.
Correct, yes. Like, if the hitboxes actually were accurately represented by where he strikes, if his flame breath were a little bit clearer about where it's going to hit and when, and how long you have to run away from it before it touches you, then I would say that that's a much more fair design. But from a technical standpoint, the fight does not behave the way it's intended to, and it does not behave the way it looks like it's supposed to. And so it's constantly giving the player inaccurate visual cues, which causes deaths that feel unfair and cheap. Now, it is possible to learn, and you and I have learned, where the actual hitboxes are and where the actual safe zones are, and once you know that, then yes, you can breeze through the fight, but you have to learn that through trial and error, and that particular process of trial and error is, oh, it looked like I was safe here, but I got a phantom hit. I wonder if that was just a fluke. And then you do it a couple more times and realize, no, this is just the fact that his hitbox for the punch is way bigger than his actual fist. So once you've learned that, it's fine, but the process of trial and error to learn it is what makes it feel unfair and broken, because, yeah, until you've learned the actual accurate spots to stand, it is unfair and broken. It doesn't give you correct or accurate cues of what it wants from you. It tells you to do one thing, and then it punishes you for that, and it turns out you have to do something that is similar, but in a different spot, you know?
Oh, there you go. You finally put on the gauntlets. Getting closer to that shirt.
Excellent. I'm almost done here.
So yeah, puzzle bosses, I think, orient a lot around that. It's going to hinge very strongly on the same elements as animating like an attack. So in some ways they're very similar. If a ball swings at you a certain way, you don't want Dark Souls 2 problems where you get hit on the first frame. So it's like, what just happened? I just hit this guy and he didn't move, and I took damage from something. And it turns out he did start an attack animation, but the active hurt box started on like frame 1, which is a big problem in 2. I had completely forgotten about it until I started playing it again recently. So you don't want to have things happen that make no sense logically in your combat or out of combat, for that matter.
That was one of my biggest complaints with 2, was that the hitboxes were not always accurately. Yeah, they weren't always. The timings were not what the animation suggested, I think, is what I'm trying to describe.
Yeah. It doesn't correspond to what you're seeing.
Yes, exactly.
And even if it did, then it would still be grotesquely unfair in some cases.
Yeah, like on
some of those things, it starts on like frame 1 or 5 or something.
Yeah, one of the best examples I can think of off the top of my head is that on my first playthrough of Dark Souls 2, I actually slowed down some footage of me fighting one of the soldiers in the fort in the Forest of Fallen Giants, and the slowed down footage showed the soldier raising his sword above his head to hit me, and I took damage while his sword was still above his head before he had even brought his sword down.
A very typical Dark Souls 2 problem. You're
Yeah,
just
that
being
that
born inside of its hitbox as it's emerging.
exactly, and that was far from the only time that happened.
Yep, so puzzles work the exact same way. If you see something, it needs to make actual sense. Um, I feel like if Dragon God, if its problems like that didn't exist, like you walk to a place and it punches a certain area, and you know for a fact its hitbox is not going to hit you regardless, like everything makes perfect sense. Would it still be a bad puzzle boss?
No, the Dragon God,
You
if its
have a hot.
hitboxes were accurate and if its visual cues and tells were accurate, it would not be anywhere near as hated as it is, I think.
One thing I don't think it would be particularly good. It wouldn't be as much of a pain in the ass, certainly, because I think once you figure out that first, oh, I can shoot it with a ballista or something.
Mhm.
Once you figure out that part, it's like, oh, I'm just going to do this many other times. There's no development of an idea past that. Which, to be fair, in like a Zelda game, you do the same thing. Like if you are fighting Goma, it's like, how do I deal with this thing? Until you realize, you shoot it in the eye at the specific moment, and then once you figure that out, it's done. Like that's the whole fight,
Yeah,
effectively.
like you lock onto it with Z targeting in Ocarina of Time, and the only point on it that you can target is its eye, and you're like, oh,
Yeah. Uh, some of that is like the age demographic. Some of it is like there's a lot to be. I can't go into a big long thing about Zelda versus FromSoft design because they're very different games. You're
yeah.
supposed to be approaching those from a different perspective. Um, yeah, that's one element of it. With the Dragon God, I also think it's how easy it is to die otherwise. Whereas in a Zelda game, you know, if you are sitting there not being able to, because that's part of your health bar in a Zelda game is you're being given a time limit effectively of here's a lot of easy to avoid attacks. If you take a few hits, it's not going to matter, but eventually you'll run out of steam if you just sit there in the boss fight the entire time and you never figure out what the solution is.
Yeah.
Uh, so with a lot of FromSoft enemies, in this case, like Dragon God, you can take one hit and you're done. It's like, okay, I guess that wasn't it, so you have to start over from scratch. And you not only have to do that, you have to go back to the Nexus, you have to go through loading screens and so on. And even that much can be really irritating. Whereas if, say, it just sweeps you to the side, or maybe you fall down to a lower level or a higher level, or just reset your progress in some way, it probably wouldn't be that much of a problem, and you could have it be a one solution style puzzle, I suppose.
Well, I mean, Dragon God kind of is a one solution style puzzle. There's a very
That's what I'm
definite.
saying. That
Yeah,
you can
okay.
keep it that way, I should say.
Gotcha.
By the way, are you back yet from your victory?
Yes, I just finished up, so I am all set, and we can move on to the next area.
Okay, what is the next area?
Well, it looks like I have not done the Dirty Colossus. I am still at one, or rather 5-2.
Yeah, that sounds accurate. Sounds accurate. Leechmonger. Correct? Leechmonger?
Yes, Leechmonger. Actually, let me make sure I have some lotuses. You might want to grab some too. Actually, never mind. I forgot. Ed doesn't sell them.
I have Royal Lotus and Widow's Lotus.
Yeah, you'll
34
want.
and 6.
Okay, you'll want both. I think. Well, we're gonna run into the old lady. I'll buy some from her anyway. Slydock, this is not a PC port. This is the original game, using original discs, emulated on PC at 1080p, 60 FPS.
Yes. Oh, hello. Are you an enemy? Oh, you're a corpse. I think that the particle effects are actually interacting with them. No, these are supposed to be flies. Okay, I never even noticed.
Yeah, there's they considering the limitations of the PS3, I think they did some really interesting things with the particle effects in this area. Although I've never been able to quite tell whether the yellow piss fog in this area is meant to be rain or like water dripping down from above, or if it's just meant to be haze or mist.
I think it's supposed to be. It looks like it's supposed to be like particulate things that are just falling in almost mist. It's wet mist. Probably sewage and just anything nasty coming down that you want to imagine it to be.
That's always what I'd kind of assumed, was it was meant to be like some precipitation of some kind from up above.
I mean, it's effective enough. You wouldn't want it to look like rain, because then people would say, "Ah, that's refreshing." You want it to look kind of nasty.
Yeah, I mean, they did the right thing by making it the color of urine, certainly.
Is that an item I didn't pick up? How dare you? My
So
sun is down, by the way.
I just summoned you. Did it not? Oh, okay. So, Slydock, the answer to your question is there are some community servers that you can use. The ones we're using are called the Archstones. There are others, but these are some of the better known. Summoning failed.
Ah, nice. Actually, let me quit out, just to be safe.
All right, I'll do the same, just to be safe.
Mm-hmm. It's like how with the Dark Souls 1 Prepare to Die edition, not the remaster, you can no longer use the servers on Steam, I think.
Yeah,
So,
they put out an announcement where it was after the exploit was discovered in the Dark Souls 3 netcode that would let someone take over your
yeah.
PC remotely. They went back, and to their credit, they went back and checked all the previous games' netcode, and they found that it had the same issue. And then when when it was time to put Dark Souls 1 back online, they basically just gave up and said, nah, we don't want to bother, so we're just going to shut down online. But there are community servers for that, too.
Yeah. Well, sort of.
Yeah, I mean,
Typically the way that it's handled
peer-to-peer, I
is...
think, in that case.
Typically the way that it's handled is they're using another game on Steam to piggyback as another server, so that you're actually not using the servers that are set up specifically for Dark Souls, because those don't exist anymore. You're using another game that no one actually plays.
That sounds right, yes.
Which, in the case of Dark Souls, also my game is not wanting to respond. Let's shut this off. Behave yourself. In the case of a Dark Souls Prepare to Die edition, it's a game called Space War, typically, is what it's set up as using. Everyone has to use the same server, or else it doesn't work. You're not going to see anyone.
Sure.
So it just so happens that's the one that people typically are using, that solution. Although you could use it as a peer-to-peer thing as well, I think.
Yeah, I haven't used it in a while, but I did set it up, and now that you mentioned it, I do recall it having a few different connectivity options. But again, this is the community fixing problems that the developer either doesn't, can't be bothered to deal with, or doesn't want to spend the money on, or doesn't think they have the budget. I don't know.
Yeah, I've never really been happy with how they handled that, especially with remaster existing.
Yeah, I mean,
Because the remaster for Dark Souls 1 is not that bad. It looks pretty good most of the time. It has one or two things that are a little bit... It's not like Demon Souls, where people really don't like the remaster in some cases. Same place.
yep, same place. The issue with the Dark Souls 1 remaster, which is a remaster and not a ground-up remake as the Demon Souls remake is, apart from using all the original code and AI and stuff and just having a very pretty skin slapped on it, which, but there you are. Okay. The DS1 remake had remaster rather, had one really important flaw that I'm not sure if Qloke decided to add it themselves or if FromSoft told them they had to, which is that they implemented that asinine matchmaking condition from Dark Souls 3 where you're not only segregated by your level, but you're segregated by your weapon upgrade level as well, which
Yeah.
makes it impossible to match up with anyone naturally, and you pretty much have to use passwords.
I really get very tired of that.
Yup.
Come on. Takes a
And that,
while.
Kel.
There it is. Yep, I kind of miss in Dark Souls 1 seeing that your summon was low in health, so you use your Estus Flask to heal them.
Yeah, that was a really cool thing they added. Although, once people figured out that you could infinitely spam your Estus Flask with the Dragon Head glitch and have invincible phantoms, that kind of made PvP not very fun.
Well, I mean, it already wasn't fun. Ah,
So I want to take a minute to talk about the level design here. Is that all right?
go ahead. That's why we're here.
Excellent. Because
Discuss nonsense.
as much as people understandably hate this area, because especially on a first playthrough, it's a miserable area to navigate. The shouts these guys do when they die, like, they must have paid the voice actors all of about 100 yen for these lines, but they must have had fun doing it. Like,
Yeah.
I would have loved...
That guy's like, "Aw."
And the fat minister lines as well, the laughs. Like, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in that recording studio at Frog Nation when they did the recording for this. But, so, as much as people hate this zone, I think it's designed really cleverly, because when you look out there, all you see is this vast expanse. And let's actually, I'm going to stop here on this little wooden platform we're on for a moment. From where we're standing, you'd never know it, but there are actually 3 paths through this area. There is the path straight ahead of us, which is a little bit visually distinct. It's kind of signposted by these rotten old fences, and you can tell just by following the fences where the path is. Then there's a path directly to our right, which you can follow the wall counterclockwise, and it will take
As
you
we did last time.
counterclockwise. Yes, it is. And then there's the third path, which goes the opposite direction that way, where you follow the wall clockwise. And each one of these different paths has a completely different set of hazards and dangers and treasure. And it's really kind of cool that you can, if you want to just kind of take the path that's most obvious, you just follow it down the middle. And this path has the advantage of giving you some islands at different intervals that will give you a chance to get out of the poison. But if you're willing to deal with the poison, you can avoid all of the enemies on this path and sneak around the big club-wielding goblins at the end. And you can either go this way and not have to fight anything, or you can go this way and fight that scary-ass Black Phantom with the meat cleaver.
Sadly, because they all have different treasures, that means that people like me have to do all of them.
Yup.
It's not a cool option. It becomes work.
Yes, I guess for completionists, it's that much more. Think about it this way, though. You get more content out of the game, right?
Well, I don't want this specific kind of content, because this is swamp content, as we've been over before.
Okay, all right.
Which I consider
fair.
to be anti-content. It's punishment for trying to play the game.
Well, I mean, Miyazaki does love his swamps a little too much, doesn't he?
Yes, it is.
Have you
That
seen
said,
the...
of the 3 paths, which of these paths are you going to take?
I'm going to take the one that involves me linking a funny Miyazaki Poison Swamp meme. Give me just a minute, because I think chat should see
Okay.
this.
Don't tell him.
Oh, have you already seen it?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, damn. Well, never mind then. I don't want to waste everyone's time. Is it one that I've already linked in chat?
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, okay. Well, good. Don't scare me like that then. Here, let me pull this up while we're... I promise it's worth it. I promise.
That's a good idea.
Oh, you found, Oh, did we get invaded by Kel?
By someone.
Oh, okay. Here, it's, this. Thank you all for your patience. Gonna just drop that in chat, and you can have a look. It just always makes me think of this now.
Yeah, there we go. Feels good to be able to have... I like it whenever a build works and does something.
Yeah,
Like
your
right now-
regen build should be pretty much obviating this poison swamp, huh?
Yeah, but I also have Antidote with me. And in addition to that, I had the Fragrant Ring, so I can just keep using it.
Mm-hmm.
What this Poke the Bird and Hammer has right after that first attack. Oh, right. You can't roll. Yeah, probably don't even need Antidote. I think it just heals through all the damage.
Yeah, the swamp is only 4 HP a tick. So with even half of that regen build, you should be fine.
I think you got all
And-
the guys.
Then, rather helpfully, the enemies, these little jelly things, drop lotuses.
Oh, they're respawn too?
Yes, they do. They'll, for a while. I think there are a finite number of them that can respawn, but they will pop back up.
I'll tell you what, I like these guys a lot better than I like the Blight Town mosquitoes.
Agreed. Although those will also stop spawning eventually.
Eventually, yeah.
Oh, I see our invader has the Moonlight Sword.
Yes. We've
and
already
here we go.
discussed, someone, one of my comments, in one of the prior parts, when we were actually going through this area, and we were discussing swamps in general, and my general disdain for them and so on. I got a couple people that said that they actually did really like swamps, but they didn't really explain why. And certainly, if someone likes swamps, that's absolutely fine. I was hoping for more elaboration so that we could actually talk about it, but I didn't really get too much of a response about it. More just
From me or from chat?
from the commenters, on the people that were
Ah.
actually expressing that opinion. It was more just disappointment that we weren't elaborating on it ourselves or open to the possibility and so on, which I understand. Of course, as been over before, some people are more challenge focused as opposed to adventure focused. So I could see that being part of it as well. But it depends on person to person. Some people get a lot out of areas like this.
Yeah, I mean, as cynical as I can be, I like to think that I try my best to appreciate the effort that goes into the design of an area, even a bad one. Although there are some areas where I can't look at it as anything other than a half-assed effort. Earthen Peak. Excuse me, my throat seems to have developed a little tickle.
What is the Elden Ring swamp?
Which one?
There's a lot of areas that kind of have that design, but there's the Caelid
There's the
area.
Swamp of Aeonia
This
in
one I picked
Caelid.
them up. Yeah.
And then there's the underground one directly underneath that, the one where you get the scorpion dagger.
The one I'm thinking of was Scarlet Rot. At least you can ride through on your horse.
Oh yeah, that's the Swamp of Aeonia, because the underground one you can't call Torrent.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't want to be there, but it's still fine because there's at least a methodology for getting through the area that is not really... Like, you don't have to walk through it in order to get all the items or anything like that, so that's not too bad. I don't like that area, though. I detest being there because it's Elden Ring, but still, that's an unrelated issue.
Yeah, that is a little different, I think.
I hated the Dark Souls 3 swamp. Devilman, someone commented in chat that he liked the Dark Souls 3 swamp. Out of curiosity, what is it about it precisely that you liked, if you can define it? Of course, if it's just, I don't know, I just liked it, that's fine too. Not everyone's going to sit there and agonize over evaluating things like that like I would.
I mean, the Dark Souls 3 swamp, we're talking about Farron Keep, right?
Yes, I think that's its name. I remember, I didn't like how circular it was. Eventually, I formed a mental map of it.
The Abyss
especially
Watcher
going
zone,
through it,
right?
yeah, especially going through the first time, it can be very confusing. But it's more just how slow and arduous it is to get through everything.
Yeah, they went out of their way, it seems like, with Farron Keep to make a lot of deep sections of the swamp that you couldn't really navigate very easily. Although it turns out that if you just equip a weapon with Quick Step, you can spam Quick Step and kind of circumvent.
Usually recommended solution for that area is just equip something like a dagger and just quick step through the whole thing.
Which is, if you're encouraging players to circumvent the way you've designed an area, that's one of the signs that you've designed an area to be too deliberately annoying.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't like the great big things with the trees, whatever those things are called.
Oh, those giant dudes with the clubs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember some pickup. I don't remember what it was specifically. I remember there being a pickup that I always had to try to get from them. But you effectively had to kill all of them in order to get a hold of it, because otherwise they would start spamming big attacks.
Yep.
And they would not be fun about it. They didn't care for you being there. Didn't care for them being there either. Didn't like them. We didn't get along.
Amen to that. Well, they could move at normal speed in the swamp, and you couldn't. So that was another, just like, yeah, hey, good luck. If one of these things sees you, you're probably going to die.
Yeah.
In fact, it actually felt like you were dragging through a swamp, and the goatman was... There is one... Yeah, there's like an element of... Does it feel like a swamp, and how interesting that happens to be from like from an immersion point of view?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is like something that is a positive. Again, I don't want to be there, but that's the point, is you don't want to be there.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they definitely achieved that pretty well, is not wanting you to be there. Also, I'm pretty sure I just saw our Black Phantom attempt to backstab on me and rebound off the the railing.
It's fine. It's part of the swamp experience.
I mean, you're not wrong about that.
Oh, he's still alive. Hello, man. Oh, you
Oh,
little slug.
My bad. Did I leave you a slug? I thought that one was dead.
Yeah, he was just completely motionless, pretending.
Oh, I'm
He
sorry.
doesn't notice I'm still alive.
All right. Well, now...
It does feel good to kill basic enemies.
It does, doesn't it?
Ooh, almost attacked you. I think that's something to be said about any game, is whatever you're going to be doing the most should feel good.
For sure.
So if you're going to be doing a lot of platforming, it needs to feel really good to like move around and jump. If you're going to be attacking, it needs to feel very good to attack things. Which I think is part of why a lot of people had problems with 2. In addition to, I mean, there's a lot to be said there, which I'll say that for like a 2 playthrough. But
yeah, that's a whole podcast.
Yeah, but that's part of it, is just how it doesn't really feel good to move around in 2 in places. This is very floaty and skatey and so on.
That and the combat as well feels really just floaty and as you say, kind of slow and slidey and just, I don't know. Personal preference maybe, but...
Killing these little slug guys, I like the feeling.
I tell you what maybe the most satisfying experience in the game is for me is knocking this nest of slugs down and then casting Wrath of God on the whole nest at once.
Yeah. Get him. Get him. Fuck up that slug. Yeah. I think that's it. Yeah, look at this big pile. I feel a sense of accomplishment having killed all these slugs.
I mean, yeah, when you leave behind a giant pile of the corpses of your enemies, even if they're just dumb mollusks.
Ooh.
Oh, there was
That's
one still alive.
2 of them. Little
Oh,
rascals.
look at that. We missed a couple. So Kiku Hellkite mentions the swamps in Monster Hunter being more tolerable, and I'm going to agree with that purely on the merit that, as far as I can remember, I mean, I've only played Monster Hunter World, but I don't think there were any poison swamps in Monster Hunter World.
I guess not.
There was a swamp where you fought Baroth.
And it doesn't slow you down either. But consequently, you could argue that it doesn't really feel swamp-like. It just has the visuals of being a swamp.
Which I think
guess-
is enough there.
Yeah, you could also have... You could have some sort of specialized effect that isn't poison, that still gives you the sense of being in a swamp that has some sort of effect, but it's not that bothersome, but I don't know what it would be.
I mean, something
You don't-
like an acid swamp with like a 15% defense penalty, right?
Maybe. I wouldn't want it to be something movement-focused, because you don't want the player to be irritated being there. And that's
Well,
one of
that's
the
what I
biggest
mean.
reasons why. Yeah.
Yeah, like
say,
th-
something
making it-
numerical like that can be replacement.
Yeah, or a swamp that gives you a weakness against fire, like an oil swamp or something like that. And
I think
you know,
we
maybe
actually
there were-
discussed this last time, and I came up with the idea of like igniting poison fumes and things like that.
yeah, which is a thing they actually do in Baldur's Gate, that there are poison fumes that can be ignited by flame sources. Something like that. Like, there's a particular encounter in Baldur's Gate in the first act where there are a bunch of mushrooms, which I think are called Bibberbang in D&D lore, and they, when they're disturbed, they release clouds of gas that explode, and there's a dude trapped in among the Bibberbang, and he's dropped a torch, and if you just walk in there and try to save him, the Bibberbang explodes, and the clouds of gas that they release get ignited by the torch, and they blow him up. So that kind of hazard, like making you figure out a clever way around it, but giving you a way that doesn't necessarily impede movement or make you hate being there, I feel like is a... Oh, that's true, Devil Man. I mean, but that's one of Baroth's attacks, right? Or Barioth, I can't remember the pronunciation or the spelling, but, you know, the big head dude who rams you with his face. That's one of his attacks. That's not so much the swamp itself, just from being there.
Yeah, I think we did have this exact conversation, and we're reaching kind of the same conclusions, which is a good sign. Because I was also sitting here thinking, you could also have areas that are sort of swamp-like, in the idea that there's sort of quicksandy areas where if you take a wrong step because you're not paying attention, you could sink in, and it starts trying to do sort of a typical, more FromSoft swamp thing where you can't really move, and it really impedes your movement, and you have to extricate yourself, which can be a problem in the middle of a fight, or you can do it to enemies as well. And that was another thing I think we were talking about, where I felt like it would be interesting if the swamp could also turn against the things that are there, as long as you're utilizing the environment to your advantage.
Well, that's the key thing that I think FromSoft missed the boat on, is even as early as Demon's Souls, the enemies in this zone do not suffer a movement penalty in the swamp. And I think the logic behind that might be either, oops, we forgot, or actually we just want this to be hard for the player and not the enemies, or these enemies are used to being here, they've acclimated to the environment, you know, et cetera, some just in-universe excuse. Whatever it is, I don't know what the devs' rationale behind that was, but I've always preferred the Shin Megami Tensei approach, where whatever broken bullshit the boss can do to you, you can do to the boss, and the boss can still do when you get it in your party later, which often happens in those games.
My preferred way of looking at it usually is, let's say that you have an area that's just fire, just on fire all the time. Rather than having, there's two ways you can do it. You could have the enemies basically say to you, I'm invincible to fire, because I just live in fire all the time. Which
Right.
to me, I don't like. Or you can have the enemy say, I have developed a way to avoid the fire, but if I get caught in the fire, then it's going to hurt me. But I'm just way better at it than you are. Which I more prefer, because then if it's something like, let's say a big bug that has a shell on its back that protects it from fire, and if you can manage to expose its underbelly to the fire, then it takes the same amount of damage. That's fine. As long as there's
Yeah.
a give and take and you can turn it against them.
There was actually a really interesting mechanic. Whoops. Damn it all. This is what happens when I'm walking and not paying attention. I'll just go back. I am not dealing with that island. Oh, Bench Apiro, huh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Oh
Universal's
dear,
name.
I didn't catch the name. No. So there's an old JRPG from the PS3 era called Wild Arms. It's a franchise.
Oh, yeah.
But in this particular instance, Wild Arms 3, the third game in the series. So there's an encounter during one of the introductory dungeons in Wild Arms
What's
3.
this? Is that a message?
Possibly.
Yeah, it's just a message. Okay, never mind. Won't stop.
So there's an introductory battle in Wild Arms 3 against an enemy that's in a shell. Like it's a giant, basically it's Bowser, essentially. It's a giant turtle with a big spiked shell. And you can't damage it until you break its shell. And the way that you break its shell is you cast fire spells on it until its shell heats up. And then you cast an ice spell on it to quickly cool its shell down and weaken it and make it brittle with the sudden drastic temperature change, which I thought was super cool.
Yeah, I like that sort of mechanic. It can be a little bit too puzzly, because a lot of people won't even know that's something that makes any sense in real life.
Well, they give you some hints about it in the dungeon as you're exploring, so they kind of prepare you for it.
Yeah. You have to tutorial. That's part of design. You have to tutorialize the player on how to approach things if you expect them to be able to solve them.
Yeah.
Because there's some things that people can know, but they just don't think about in the moment.
Yeah, and I mean, in that particular case, there's sort of a cursory level of science that you need to understand in order to get the hint about what's going on. But again, they at least provide some hints on that.
Wow. The guy had a bad time.
Yeah, he sure did. But he also dropped some Faint Stone, which I will give you once we're done with all this.
Okay. Something else I was going to... Yes. In addition to all the swamp nonsense, since I was casting Antidote on myself and then using the ring to regenerate that MP, I don't know if we talked about it or not. But I've had the discussion in the past about people's preferences as far as whether they would have rather have an MP system versus like the card system that you find in 1 and 2.
Oh, Third Impact, that was you just now, that invader? I wondered if it was one of our friends in chat. Go ahead, Eli, sorry. We had our friend identify themselves.
Right. Whether or not we prefer the card system or not. I've
Yes,
always liked the card system, and usually... Still alive? Oh, he is. Okay.
Card system.
Yeah. Just this is the number of casts that you can do per rest, and that's it.
Oh, okay, I see. Like the D&D style.
Yeah.
Okay.
And usually, like, the advantage of an MP system, in theory, is that you can, as long as you have items or something to restore that MP, you can just keep casting the same spell over and over again. So it feels like you have a little bit more agency, and your player is more of a... Like, it's something that they can do, I suppose. It's just something that's built into your personal agency as a character, and it feels a little bit more like it's a power, as opposed to a resource, I suppose. The downside, I would say, is that as a result of having that limited MP pool, typically what people will do is they'll figure out this spell is the most MP efficient thing that I have access to. So these are the two spells that I will be using. This one deals reliable small damage, and this one is my big spell. Whereas
Yep.
if you had, a card system where you can only use this spell X number of times, then you can say, well, I have a big spell, but I can only use it twice. So there might be 3 or 4 areas where it would be a good idea to use it at this specific instance, but I can't use it that number of times. So I actually have to use some intermediate spells. I have to use different things with different approaches, and I have to have a replete amount of possible things to do in order to be able to get the job done.
Yeah, you're talking about having to actually think about your resource management and not just face fuck everything with 99 old spice and 99 fresh spice, as it were. Yeah.
So there's upsides and downsides to using either system. There's different ways of handling it, but usually I find that people that prefer the MP system really just prefer that. The ability to keep casting a spell that they enjoy using, which is fair.
Yeah, and I mean, it depends on what kind of game it is, too, because in a game like Baldur's Gate 3, which is D&D based, the encounters are designed around the assumption that people will just have limited casts of a spell per day, and resting and advancing the day requires a different set of resources, which is food. I left you some faint stone there. You can grab that for your weapon. I personally am usually not a fan of the limited cast per spell system, purely because I tend to find that the amount of casts you get are not sufficient for the intervals between which they are restored.
You can see why it's handled that way, though.
Yeah, like in Dark Souls, I feel like the MP system is a little bit better, but then Dark Souls 2 kind of took it too far in that direction, where, oh hey, guess what? There are like 15 different items that restore MP, and they all stack to 99, so you will never, ever, ever care about MP.
Yeah, that's one reason why I don't really like consumables that restore spell casts.
Yeah,
you
and I mean,
it's like having divine blessings, then saying, well, there's only like 2 of them in the game or something. But if someone finds a way to duplicate them, or if 99 helpful phantoms just so happen to give them their versions of it, then that problem goes away.
Well, and Demon Souls has that problem too, where especially if you're in PvP and you're fighting someone who has a stack of 99 of each of the 9 or 10 different types of healing grass, it just turns into a what I've heard people describe as a cow contest, because you're just sitting there munching grass, just going moo, and no one's dying because everyone has an effectively unlimited supply of healing items that will refill all of their health in a third of a second, right? So that's kind of a problem too.
I've thought about ways of handling it before. Some of them are a bit more elaborate than they probably should be. I do like systems where you have to like do melee attacks to replenish your MP, if that's a system. But I think I do, in the long run, prefer a cast system, because you do end up with that problem of, some of my spells are useful, but I only have so much MP, so I'm discouraged from ever using them, because I need to save that for my really heavy cost skill that solves a big problem that I need to have on hand.
Right. Elixir syndrome.
Yeah. You can do it so that I can think of a game that does it this way, but you could do it so that you have to replenish each spell individually. Like, I don't know, switching to that. This is the most awkward way of doing it. Like switching to that spell and then doing your, you hit the enemies and you slowly recharge the MP of that personal spell.
Okay.
Like, if you look at it that way. There's a more elegant way of doing it, I'm sure, but just using that as an example. You could do it that way. So it's getting the best of both worlds, where you're still charging something, and the simpler the spell, the easier it is to charge back up, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
You
I
could
mean,
do it that way, I suppose.
I've always been a fan of the Devil May Cry system where the more you hit an enemy, the more meter you build, and then you can save your meter or use it. But the fact that you gain this resource by doing something that you have to do anyway to get through the game just by hitting enemies is like, well, okay, that means every enemy is now a resource, and how are you going to exploit it? It adds a lot to the gameplay. It makes the combat more interesting, and it's good for both beginner players who are going to sit on their meter and save it for when they really need it, and for more advanced players who are going to say, okay, well, I'm going to use my meter on this stronger enemy now because I know I'll build more meter in between now and the next time I have to fight a strong enemy, right? Like, I
And you
like
also
that
don't wanna
system.
you also don't wanna have the standard solution of just make it regenerate over time or something. Because then that
Right.
just encourages players to do what I'm doing here, just standing here, just waiting for it to go back up.
Yeah, and yeah, Excited Cats, Hollow Knight is a good example of that, where you build special meter by hitting enemies. Also, Exadata makes a good point that they like the mana system because if they play a mage character, they only want to use magic, and then they don't want to run out of spells and magic and be stuck with like a crappy little dagger as their last line of defense. Which, yeah, I get that.
Yeah, it works better if you have like one character for one game. Like Hollow Knight, for example, works because you're playing as a character.
Yeah.
It's not like a class system or something. There goes that thought. There it went. Yeesh. Yes. You don't want it. You don't want it so that the entire game ensures that no matter what kind of thing that you're playing as, you end up being forced into a mixed, like a, what do they call them? Like a war mage sort of class, no matter what. Where either I'm a guy that has no magic at all, or I'm a wizard, so I have to hit people with my sword to regenerate my, magic. Or it's the inverse, where I'm a guy that has some spells, but I still do it the same way. I have to recharge using, melee attacks. So you end up playing the same way no matter the class. It's just that it has a little bit more focus one way or the other. It is nicer to be able to have like a legitimate focus, so that I'm playing a mage. What do you do? I cast spells. What do you got there on your side? Oh, it's a sword. I just keep it for aesthetic purposes. I've never used it. It'd be nice to have that.
Yeah, it's a backup in case I get silenced or something, right? But honestly, because I like it when the system is dynamic and you're not just waiting on a cooldown or you don't just have a limited number of casts, I think the way that MMOs handle this problem is actually something that should be utilized more in non-MMOs. Final Fantasy XI is a really great example. There are many mage classes in Final Fantasy XI. It's Square Enix's first MMO, and they have some really interesting ways of handling MP economy in Final Fantasy XI. For example, red mages have an ability called Convert, which instantly converts all of their HP into MP, and it leaves them with 1 HP, and it refills their MP from their HP. And they can use that once every 10 minutes. It's on a cooldown, which I'm not so fond of. I would like to see it be like you be able to build some kind of resource to spend on it and not have to wait a hard 10 minutes for it. But they also have a spell they can cast which slowly regenerates their own MP over time, which is called Refresh. They have a couple of stronger versions of that they get as they level up. Black mages...
By the way,
yeah?
where are we going next?
We are going to... Where are we going? Oh, we might as well just finish the Valley of Defilement. We've just got Garl and Astraea left.
Okay.
So, black mages and scholars in Final Fantasy XI can cast the spell Asper, which steals MP from the enemy. Scholars also have an ability which gradually charges a consumable pool of MP over time by wearing away their HP. And then they can just consume that whenever they want to transfer HP into MP. So like, there are ways of handling it that are more dynamic and more interesting than just, oh hey, let's just give the player a limited number of casts of this spell until they rest at a bonfire.
I think
you
I
know?
prefer it so that the spell has some particular way of recharging itself, and it just depends on the spell. Like, say
WoW
if you have
Warlock Life Tap is a good example. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. Here, I'll put my sign down right outside the boss arena.
outside the boss arena.
Yeah, outside the fog, because it's only this little tunnel that we can put our signs down in.
Oh, okay. I'm not here.
Yep.
Let's see. Oh, wait, yeah, of course. It's been a while.
Yeah, you remember now.
Ooh, careful. Down this squishy path.
Alright, let's see if we end up needing to quit and reload again.
Oh, undoubtedly. Problem no matter what. Did I just miss an item? I'm gonna guess I can't even go back up, right?
You can, there's a ladder.
Okay, good.
Yep, right back where you drop down.
Despise that.
there's- What I despise most about ladders in Demon Souls is how slowly you climb them and the fact that you can't speed it up.
Oh, goodness. I've not felt terribly great today. We're both
I'm
sluggish.
Just didn't get enough sleep?
No, it's probably more than like yesterday. I think I ate mainly trash, and today I woke up and ate some trash.
Ah. Wait a minute, you live on a farm. Did you not, or do you just
I
grow
don't live
like
on a
corn for
farm.
ethanol?
My general family has not farmed for quite some time.
Oh, okay. I was under the impression that you,
Also, that doesn't stop trash from being easily accessible, especially whenever you have to prepare for a stream.
Fair enough, yes. I suppose the problem of food deserts does persist.
Alright, here we are.
Kel is just a raccoon over here.
Like I was trying to say though, like, for example, if you have like fireball, like just a basic ass fireball attack, and then you run out of your cast of fireball, you actually have to do something that's like an alternate attack with that fireball, and I don't know what it'd be, like siphoning something out of them. Like you find an enemy and it's almost like a dark wraith or something. You have to grab them, something, just anything.
Like it
Something of that
becomes a
nature.
close-range combustion spell, maybe, that you have to hit with up close?
Yeah, it'd just be nice if, like, there's an alternate attack for every type of spell. That makes the spell casting more involved, but it just depends on what you want to do as a developer. It doesn't really matter too much, just if you're going to be doing something besides, like, just a straight-up card system or an MP system, which is super easy in comparison, then I would probably do it that way, where it's a little bit more involved, the spells are more involved, but not terribly so, and you have to actively think about replenishing your spells, but this on a spell-to-spell basis, so that way you're encouraged to keep using them, and you can keep using them, but it's not necessarily going to devolve into just using your sword to handle every problem with regenerating MP or something like that. And it's still like systems like that where you generate MP using alternate attacks. This is still fun.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like in games like Elden Ring, where you do end up with the problem where you find the most MP efficient spell with the highest damage for the MP cost, and you just stick with that, except during boss fights when you need big damage up front. Even in that situation, even when I have the MP efficient spell, I always find myself as a mage going, well, I have a limited number of recharges on my blue flask, I want to save my MP, so I'm just going to handle everything with a sword anyway to save MP. And that doesn't feel good either, you know?
How do you see? He can't see it.
No, he can't. It has like a built-in radar.
It always struck me that he looks kind of bothered.
Well, I mean,
Go
yes, he's
forth,
not
and he
happy
gets
we're
up
here.
and like, all right.
Man, it was comfortable on this pile of rotten corpses.
Leave us, slayer of demons. This is a sanctuary
so
for the
let's say
lost
we
and wretched.
head on over here and
There
handle
is
this.
nothing here for you to pillage
What are you
or
handling?
plunder.
Crystal lizard.
Please, leave quietly.
So something I don't have any experience with the remaster, but something Kel was railing against is the music change in the remaster, where this is a bit more like solemn and contemplative, and definitely fits that theme of what exactly are you doing here? Because all these guys, they're not bothering you. Nothing's attacking you. And even whenever you get down there to the boss proper, he doesn't necessarily attack you until you start getting way too close. Except for these little fucking babies who I just forgot about. Hate those things.
Yes.
So yeah, you get here and you're supposed to, perhaps after you've beaten the boss, at this moment of, why was I doing this? Because the boss even tells you, leave. We're not bothering you, just leave us alone.
Yep. Yeah, this was a very good encounter at making you question whether what you were doing was the correct decision.
What's the correct path to get all the items here? Because there's
There
one
are-
right there.
Well, there's more than one path is the problem, but not all of those items are worth getting. There's a
Here it
pure
comes.
marrow stone and a pure sucker stone in there, and I believe you can't get both of them in the same drop. And if you drop down there from up here, you're trapped essentially having to walk through the swamp with the babies in order to get back up.
What is he casting over there? Is it Wog?
Vinland, he does have Wog, but
I
it's
just watched him cast it.
it's I believe regeneration or heal.
Okay. Well, I guess I will get this first then. Because it's the thing that I can see. Here's Sucker Stone. Surely, Maiden Astraea does not mind me collecting the blue. Doesn't mind me collecting this stuff.
I'm sure she won't.
Please.
Oh, did you oh god.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I can't get out of this. I didn't realize they they really can crowd around you.
They do, and that's deliberate. They'll approach you from all directions. They'll come from behind, they'll come from the sides.
Where's my... Where is it? Here it is. Wise.
Yeah, Kel, you and I are agreed on that the vibe did change subtly, but it definitely changed.
Yeah, I think he commented that there were some people in the like YouTube video hosting the music, saying that the new song was much better because it made them feel strong, like a
Which
real
completely
hero.
misses the point.
Like that's the exact opposite feeling you're supposed to be having.
Yeah. Although, I kind of think that might be a reflection of what people think these games are
Yeah.
meant to do now, or what people want from them now, maybe, or what the developers are trying to achieve with them. Because we've talked about that stupid trailer for the Elden Ring DLC, that it's meant to make you feel
never
powerful.
In one Tarnish had as much power or whatever it is.
Yeah, that one. And so, like, that to me, it seems clear that they're trying to make you feel big and cool. Whereas here, it's more like they're trying to make you feel humble and make you think about what you're doing. Because in Elden Ring, you don't think about what you're doing. You're like, oh, become the Elden Lord. He must be a cool guy. I want to be a cool guy. And then everyone you fight along the path of Elden Lord, even the assholes, are cool guys.
Where? Here. Right, this time, go to work.
All right. On it.
No running off and doing your own thing.
Oh, well, I mean, wait a minute. Then when you say go to work, am I following you?
Yes.
Okay.
Alright. Now I need to get my bloodstain back.
Okay.
Which means probably killing these babies, I guess. I'm not sure.
They do respawn, you know.
Wonderful. So how do you get through the area?
You don't go this way, you go the way that Garl is.
Okay, then how do
Standing.
you get my bloodstain back?
Well, you get your bloodstain back, and then you're gonna have to book it.
Okay.
So, this is about as close as you can safely get.
Unfortunately, it has swamp problems.
It sure does.
You can't really move.
But you're gonna have to hold the run button and just get out of the swamp to the land. And I'll try and distract these guys. There you go, you got it.
Antidote work on this.
You need a Widow's Lotus.
Wonderful. Now, why exactly would it work? Although I shouldn't have used it already, because there's another one right there. Oh, I can't hit them.
No, they're notoriously difficult to hit.
Lovely. Yeah, I do remember hating this place, but I couldn't remember why.
Well, now I bet you remember.
Yep, there's a lot of them. There
There
a
are.
very large amount of them.
And they continually respawn, so you can never get rid of all of them.
Yeah, I feel like if they're going for the we're to just leave us alone, we're fine here, then this should not have been a thing.
I mean, this might... There they go.
God, you just instantly catch it too. There's no
Yep.
build up. You just have it.
Make this count, Eli, because I've only got one more.
Yeah. Alright. Is there anything else around here?
Other than...
Also- How do we get out of here?
we get past Garl.
I mean, do you walk? I'm guessing walk forward. Get away from me.
If you're trying to get out of
I
here
can't
with your
move.
bloodstain... Yeah. So the ramp to your right is how we would have gotten out of the swamp.
The what to the ramp? The
The
ramp.
ramp.
To the right.
There's a ramp to the right of where you died. It would have been to your right, going up the side of the arena, and that was how you would have gotten out. The way I usually clear all the items out of this arena is, once the boss is dead, I'll go back in and drop down each of the different paths, and then I'll just Shard of Archstone out.
Okay, let's try this again.
Mecca,
Yeah,
you
I've-
can, but killing her first turns all of the goblins in the arena hostile, and she will start countering with Wrath of God. You can snipe her. There's a spot on the right side of the arena up on the upper level where you can just snipe her with a bow, and there's nothing Garl can do, but... Who does that?
I
Alright,
love
my
how you
sign
can
is
see
down.
the themes of the texture.
Oh, on the fog?
You can even see the direction that it's heading whenever it's
Yep.
animating. It's a big plus sign or a big
Yep.
crosshair.
I see it. Good old HD upscaling. Looks like
Yeah,
I
I
might have
feel
to
like
quit.
this boss would probably be more effective if they did not put any items down there, or they just didn't have the babies, and it was just a plague area. Or if you fall down, then it's a punishment for falling down, because you get the degen. But that's it.
Yeah,
Putting the
I
enemies
mean,
down there and the items, that defeats the purpose of what the boss encounter is supposed to be.
it's weird that there are so many other hazards in this arena besides the boss. Like, normally I'm not a fan of fights that have ads. Although you can avoid ever interacting with the ads in this fight, this technically has more ads than any other fight in the entirety of the Souls series or any of FromSoft's modern games.
Miyazaki clearly hates completionists. Possibly, yeah. It feels that way more so after Elden Ring because it's an open world game, and open world games are typically designed for incidental content as opposed to completing content. You're meant to go in a direction, and that's the reason why things feel copy-pasted in open world games, is because they're having to populate the world. So you get a lot of encounters and, like, Korok seeds, you could say, summoning failed, that feel like the same thing over and over again, because they are being clone stamped, effectively. Because you're not meant to find all of them.
Ulcerated tree spirits.
Here's kill.
All right, I just removed and replaced mine.
I think this is my favorite song or track in the game.
The boss theme for Garland Astraea.
For Garland Astraea, yes.
I would tend to agree. The only one that I think is competition for it is the ending theme, the vocal one.
Demon Souls has a weird thing where I've talked about this before, like comparing like a Zelda to like like an early Zelda to Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild has a lot of atmospheric tracks. So when people talk about their favorite music in the series, they're usually talking about much older games, because most of the music in Breath of the Wild is kind of just incidental. It's background stuff. You don't really pay much attention to it.
Yeah.
There are some good tracks, though. I really like the Terrytown track, that game. But Demon Souls sort of has that in the sense of it is a traditional track. Summoning failed again, but
Awesome.
it a lot of it is more tone than it is. What I don't know what the opposite of that would be. It's more so tone than it is like presentation, I guess. Where you don't listen to a Demon Souls track for like, oh yeah, I love this song.
Yeah,
It's-
there's sick riffs.
Yeah, it's supposed to be in the background. It's there to set atmosphere and tone. Whereas this is the only one of those songs to me that really feels like it's more of a track, conventional track.
Well, this one is more forefront. This one is meant less to be in the background, and it's meant more for you to actually listen to it and hear the melody and go, oh, this music is communicating something really serious. I'm going to quit and reload again.
I don't know anything about analyzing music, so I couldn't describe it to you. Just know what my brain feels. A German spy. Summon this phantom. Summoning failed. Other user is no longer able to be summoned.
Oh, because I quit to the menu and...
Yeah, it's interesting that I got a different message.
Yeah, it's the first time I've seen this message. I wonder if this is unique to the Archstones. Let me try moving my sign. I'll put it behind where you're standing now. Just, like, turn your camera around and...
I do appreciate you can hear the wailing from beyond the fog.
Yeah, you can hear it all throughout the area. It's coming from different guys, of course, but... All right, let's try this.
Just a den of nasty, nasty men.
Very nasty. They haven't showered in at least 3 days.
You'd think if she wanted to do what she's doing, she'd pick a better spot than the deepest, dankest well in the worst part of the nastiest land.
I mean, I think the idea behind that is who's going to come down here and bother her? Not us.
Oh, well, I mean, it's like handing out donations for the poor, where you want to set that up. A trash can in an alleyway. You could probably find a better spot.
I mean, yes.
But maybe that's the reason why they're down here. Because anyone that is not this deep down is someone that still thinks that there's something up there worth having.
Or that they're ever going to be able to have, because the whole point of this this valley is people. Oh, hi.
That's interesting. Yeah,
A little bit delayed.
It queued up your summon. I never interacted with your new sign.
My sign never showed up for you. I put it right next to you, and it never appeared on your screen.
Weird.
Okay, well,
that's
I'll take it.
very interesting.
I,
Okay.
I bet this is due to some fallback netcode of the Archstones.
Who knows?
Yeah, well, cool.
Okay.
That was neat. So, Kel,
Right.
she's here because they're offering her their souls. These are people who have nothing left in life, who've been cast out of their homes, who've been rejected or are unwanted, and they're just here to say, look, we don't want to live anymore. Take our souls. You can have them. We don't need them.
Good guy. Heh, good message. Now,
And
where'd
a very
you two go?
thought-provoking one, eh? We're headed off toward Garl. We're right behind you. Now, bear in mind, Garl will parry you. And he does read inputs. He's one of the few enemies in this game that do so in an obvious way. So, if you can get him to open his guard...
Hi, what are you doing?
You abandoned us long ago. What right do you have? We live humble lives. Leave us be.
I remember this fight more so for the presentation more than the actual... Hi, you okay?
I'm
more
fine,
so than
yeah.
more so than the actual fight itself. Because if I remember, the fight is not exactly enjoyable.
Well, no,
God
it's, I mean, it's Garl basically turtling you right here at a choke point.
Yeah. If you remember me talking about Capra Demon, this is it. This is the exact thing I was talking about. If you wanted to make it into a puzzle encounter, this is a bit more what that would be.
Okay. I see what you're getting at. Yeah, you got it. Just encourage him a little bit and get ready to roll backward.
Yeah, he doesn't do a lot of attacking.
Not when he's got 3 people locking him down, but if you do
Yeah.
this solo, he has hyper armor because he's got a big, humongous weapon, and if you try to hit him with a melee attack, he will auto-parry.
Interesting as well that he doesn't have the boss health bar.
No, the boss is Astraea. Garl is
Yeah.
just an ad, actually. Even though he's effectively the real boss.
Aw. That rebound off the walls.
Yeah, he rebounds a lot, which I don't think the devs quite anticipated.
Oh yeah, he dropped something.
He
Oh, it's
dropped
stuff.
a whole lot of
It's-
heavy stuff.
Which will weigh you down and make it so that you can't get your blood stain back.
Yeah.
My heart's breaking. Yeah, I
Mine
don't like
too.
that you have to catch the plague here either. I think that's a little bit much.
Yeah, especially when you want to talk to her and hear her dialogue.
You.
It also makes you mash through the dialogue to ensure you don't die.
Don't you?
Yep,
Very well.
which is unfortunate.
I can no longer resist you. Do as you like. Take your precious demon soul.
Kel, that was very brave of you walking in there like that to kill these things.
Oh boy. Obtained a power beyond imagination. I'm such a hero.
15,000 souls. And
Where's-
some
oh,
cool
there it
armor.
Ring of Sincere Prayer and a Pure Blood Demon Soul.
So the Ring of Sincere Prayer is really funny to me because it is actually the origin. Well, better that you see it for yourself. So, put the
I
ring
gotta get my
on
blood.
and then
No,
cast.
hold on. I gotta get my blood sign, or my blood
Oh,
stain back.
right. Okay.
Fortunately,
Good luck.
still way back there. Are these things still? Yeah, they're still gonna attack. Of
They
course
sure are.
Get out of the way. I don't like that they can spawn it in front of you.
Yep.
Get out of here. Oh my god. Well, so much for that.
Yeah, that's. What
Not
I
only
meant.
can they spawn in front of you, they can just spawn in a circle around you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I don't. Wow, I still... it said I caught the plague as soon as I spawned.
Awesome.
Yeah, I don't care for that part of the fight. That's by far the worst part of it.
Yep.
I like everything else about it. Like the presentation, the narrative, the tone, everything is solid. Except for the baby pit. That
Yeah.
should never have been here.
Although, in fairness to the baby pit, you did decide to jump into it.
But if you're gonna... Oh, he's back? What the fuck?
It's his Black Phantom,
Okay.
which means you have pure white world tendency in this zone, oddly. This is where they break their own rules. Black Phantom Garl is part of the pure white world tendency quest here with Selen. And he doesn't actually appear here in pure black world tendency. Selen does. Oh, Kel, you were going to show the ring off in Latria. I see.
Okay, part of the quest? What are you talking about?
So, Black Phantom Garl Vinland drops the Vinland Crest, which is an item you have to give to his sister Selen Vinland earlier in the Valley of Defilement, near where the old woman is in her second location. But that quest is only completable. It only shows up when the Valley of Defilement is in pure white world tendency. And normally Black Phantoms only appear in pure black world tendency, or black world tendency in, I think, 1 or maybe 2 edge cases. So Black Phantom Garl Vinland is the only Black Phantom who appears in pure white world tendency rather than in black tendency. Which is a rule break on the game's part.
He has a lot of health, too.
Yeah, he does. He's no joke.
More specifically, I am not dealing much damage to him with my blessed weapon.
Well, he's resistant to magic. Fire would do a little more if you had it, but you're doing fine.
Well, it may just take one hit. Me to not be doing fine, which almost happened.
Yeah, it will only take one hit unless you get, like, splash damage instead of a direct hit. But you
He's
got
a
it.
big lad.
He is. He doesn't mess around.
I'm glad that this overhang is a bit of oversight as well.
And the
fact that
walls,
he can
yeah.
rebound off that, yeah.
Yep.
I think they just wanted him to have a big, impressive weapon, and they didn't think enough about it.
I believe originally his concept art has him holding a katana.
Why would he have a katana?
Oh, no, wait, that's Bjorn. Never mind. One of the other big lads, I was confusing him with. Bjorn's concept art shows him holding a katana. Which is also really weird.
There we go, finally.
Yep.
Only took 100 million attacks.
You did it. I knew you would.
First
And yeah-
cannot carry.
Oh, you get his weapon here, I
Ah,
think.
demons.
I know, right? Devil
That's why
Man,
you don't do that.
they did reuse this guy's design in Dark Souls 2. It was the guy in the crypt, that boss. Well, look on the bright side, Eli. You're never going to use this weapon anyway.
Oh, my hit back though.
Good luck.
You can't even roll.
Nope.
Fucking get away from me, little freaks. Their wailing synchronized for a second.
Ah,
Feeling like they were singing.
love
Oh,
that.
right. I was too focused on walking. This place
Well-
sucks.
You got your bloodstain a little closer to where you want to be. Velstadt, yes.
Yep, don't like the baby pit.
Kel, the only problem with that headcanon is that it's on a loading screen where it shows Bjor with a katana, and it says his name. It says Bjor of the Twin Fangs.
Well,
I hate to be the
unreliable
one to-
narrator.
Yeah.
There you go. Fix.
Really what it is just that they took the screenshot before they finalized his loadout.
Why is it even further back? What? How'd it get back there?
Oh, because it's a few seconds behind where you currently are.
Oh, this place.
Uh,
Can't even kill them.
You know, if you want, I could go to the Archstone of the Shadowmen and grab some.
Oh,
Okay.
move. No. Well, there goes it.
Well, you tried.
Yeah, that needs to go. If I had his ear and this was 2000 whatever, I'd say no, sir. You should not have that there. That definitely needs to not be in the game.
And it would be totally fair.
It also ensures that I mean, you're probably going to die just talking to her in some cases. In which case you have to go back and you can even get ensnared in a situation like that where you're just repeatedly trying to pick up your bloodstain from succeeding.
Yeah, and it can result in you having to complete the fight all over again.
Need to do it in your world? Did we do yours?
We did mine.
Yes.
No, we didn't.
We didn't?
I don't think. Did we? I've
Can't
already
remember.
forgotten.
I don't think so.
I don't think we did either. I think we still need to do mine, so you can.
Wait, this is the wrong one. What? It spawns you catching it?
There's Bjor. Oh yeah, because it spawns you in the. It spawns you in the acid.
That's how bad it is.
Yep.
So you can actually say, "Oh, go here real fast," and then like go pee, and you come back and you've just been dying over and over.
Yeah, that's one of the many good old design
Demon
choices.
Souls, yeah. When people say Demon Souls is jank, this is sort of the stuff they're talking about.
They're not joking.
Wait. Where's the fog start? Okay, it's right there. I think.
Right about there, yeah. All right, go ahead and put your sign down. And I will come grab you as soon as it shows up.
I shouldn't have eaten all those gummy bears this morning.
Oh, is that what? Oh, dear, Eli.
One of them. I like gummy bears.
What else did you have? You said one of them. What else was there?
I ate some shortbread cookies,
Oh, okay.
but those are more or less okay. But they just don't sell really tiny packets of gummy bears.
Not anymore, they don't. No, I remember when you used to be able to get like an ounce package of gummy bears, but
Actually, I saw they were selling them, but they were in a big box. So you had to buy a
Oh.
huge amount of them.
Of
Which defeats the whole
course.
purpose.
yeah, like that whole thing is. Portion sizes used to be smaller with that stuff. My grandmother used to buy gummy bears to give me when I was a very small child, and she would always have like tiny. They were the size of little raisin boxes that you get in your school lunch, and
There we go.
excellent. All right, I'm looking for it.
It's done. I can tell I definitely need more water, though, that's for sure.
Okay, if you want to take a minute to go get that while we're waiting for your sign to show up for me, you can.
Here, hold it fast. Keep
All
them
right.
entertained.
I'll hang out with chat. So how are you guys doing, chat? How's everyone holding up? Yeah, I used to really love gummy bears too, Kel. I would always look forward to going to visit my grandmother because she would always have gummy bears for me. They were my favorite treat ever when I was 7. Exhausted? Oh, I bet, Ari. Nick told me a little bit about. He messaged me around, I think, 10, 11 days ago and kind of explains things a little. And I can imagine you guys are really tired. I'm so sorry. You just rolled out of bed. Well, I know that feeling, Kel. It's always me getting up at some ungodly hour of the day. You know, Sarazor, it crossed my mind, but he's a grown-ass man. He's allowed to make his own choices. Who am I to deny him the annoyance of losing his souls 3 times in a row? Meowsifer, I'm sorry to hear you're stuck at work, but I'm glad you're able to at least drop by and join us. We appreciate all of you being here.
Oh, good. I never
Welcome
get something.
back.
It means that it's not going to work.
I'm still looking. Maybe we quit and reload.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. What is it? I don't know why he felt the need to add like 4 or 5 different things whenever you first log in.
Yeah, you can just go to the website for the Archstones for that information.
Okay, trying to do this one hand as I hold the glass.
President Pariah, the first time you bounced off of Demon Souls was the first time you perma-lost yourself. Yeah, it doesn't feel good, does it? But there's a reason why it's designed not to feel good. It's designed to teach you. And boy, does it. They'll give you some negative reinforcement there for sure. And it's very effective at that, isn't it?
I was thinking about that the other day, and I realized, you know what? I don't like that system.
No?
I don't like it.
What about it don't you
It's
like?
something. Well, it's something that I've always kind of just minded. I don't mind that it's there. It's an okay system if you're doing something wrong and it's like a severe punishment for just really, doing something overtly incorrect. But it's really just there to create that negative feeling, which does just push people out of the game. And I can understand making it so that you want to be more mindful. But say if you're carrying around 1,000,000 souls, and then you die, you are really paranoid about getting back to that pile, and that's fine. But the moment that you die a second time, especially if it's some oversight of the game, like, the physics glitch out as you're walking across something, and your character's hitbox interacts with something the wrong way, and you slide off the side of something. Like, I'm thinking of the Crystal Caves in Dark Souls 1.
Good example,
Where
yeah.
you're walking down a specific path, and your character just goes whoop, and off they go because of the physics. You didn't do anything wrong. There's absolutely nothing that you did wrong. That was the developers. They fucked up. But now that 1,000,000 souls, or whatever it is, it's just gone. It's gone forever. And now that feeling that you had of, I need to be very careful, I need to learn from my mistakes, it's gone. That's also gone. It's pretty much gone forever, because at this point you just mentally clocked out of the game entirely. And you might just stop playing for the day because you're like, oh, well, okay, whatever, I don't care anymore. So I don't think it does what it's designed to do very well. It's probably the whole pile run back system It's fine in concept, but it's probably something that probably could be done a little bit better.
Well, I mean, everything has room for improvement, I think,
Yeah.
certainly, but what would you do to change it, do you suppose?
I don't know. Yeah, the sign's still down.
All right,
Something... I'm going to give another bad example.
Mm-hmm.
Something the original Lords of the Fallen did, and I remember this specifically, is it was the exact same system, except it also operated on a timer. So, whenever you had a pile of your resources, after you died, sitting somewhere, you had to run back to it as quickly as you could, because it started to deteriorate over time.
Oh,
And say if
God.
you start with that same million, for every few minutes it would go down to like 900, 800, 700, until there was just nothing left.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, so it was even worse. Because they were really too on board with the idea of, oh, people like this, right? Like it's hard, haha, it's funny. Like you're punished even more, and it's trying to encourage you to make even more mistakes. It was like combining the crystal lizard concept with the soul pile concept of trying to bait you into making even more mistakes, because now they have turned your resources into a crystal lizard that pulls you into enemies and encourages you to try to run through the level.
Yeah, that's the kind of trolley design that I feel like it started showing up a lot, starting with Dark Souls 2, and then it just became a convention after that.
What I might do is iterate on it a bit, if we're trying to preserve as much of this original concept as possible. Have it first be a pile, and then after that, have it distribute amongst the enemies.
Like in Bloodborne, where they would pick it up if they walked over it?
Sort of, except not with one specific enemy. I'll take that back. You could even iterate it like that. Like, first it becomes a pile, and if you fail to pick that up, it goes to a specific enemy. Then if you fail to kill that enemy, or if it kills you, or whatever, then it spreads amongst the enemies, so that you have to kill them each individually, and then it just stays that way. So all your resources are still there, but now it's a matter of, well, you have to clear out the whole area now that you failed like 5 times in a row. But you're not necessarily losing anything. Or you could also combine it with a vagrant system in one, where it can be lost permanently if you fail enough times, but the residual amount that you have lost becomes a vagrant and goes to someone else's world. Which is how it worked in one, but it doesn't happen that often.
Or you could do what they did in Dark Souls 2 and make it so that if you farm an area too much to get your stuff back, you just depopulate all the enemies and it's all gone. Aha, 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 aha.
Yeah, I just don't like the idea of either losing it completely or even losing little small increments of it.
Leave us.
Oh, I agree.
Slayer of
I can understand why you'd
This is a
prefer not to have it
sanctuary
completely go away.
direction.
Yeah.
I think the idea of making
nothing
people just
left
keep
but
fighting
to
enemies to
pillage
get it
and
back is
plunder.
interesting, because that at
Peace.
least will force you to learn how to
Be
fight those
quiet.
enemies.
Yeah. It becomes a reflection of the time that you have spent, and it encourages you to keep doing what you were doing in order to get stronger.
Yeah.
Will it respond to Kel?
Yes, he will.
I don't believe you. I'm gonna attack like a madman.
See what happens.
I was trying to encourage him to like R1 flatten me just then, but he didn't do it.
You're lucky we, Oh, nice. Well done, Kel. The old chain backstab, eh?
Welcome to Demon Souls, motherfucker.
And it only stayed the same in Dark Souls.
Amazing. Oh, look at you. I was trying to fight back. Can't be allowed.
He certainly is. Well, we'll see about that. Good job, everyone.
I have failed
Been
you.
BS fished.
We beat that really difficult opponent. He was really difficult.
Yeah, that's the inverse of the tone from when I was fighting him. Where we were like bullying him and pushing him up against the wall. Look at this dork. Take that, dork.
I mean, there were 3 of us at least, so... Alright, let me get my Lotus on here first, because, my god,
Stupid babies.
right? Right. And then up on the land, pop a Lotus, and everything was lovely once again. Wonderful.
You killed him, didn't you?
That's right.
Very well. I can no longer resist.
And there we are.
Do as you like.
I got the dialogue way
Take
after.
your precious
Did you?
I think.
soul.
Yeah, she's
Oh,
still
you might have.
talking.
Okay, yeah, because I mashed through mine.
You didn't care what she had to say?
I have heard it so many times. I know it by heart. I hear it in my sleep.
You revived, it says threateningly. Let's see. I think now this is complete. Don't have to worry about that anymore.
Yep, Valley of Defilement is done.
And Storm King, we got that done. So we just have the first 3, and that's it.
Yeah. I usually save Boletaria for last just because it's blocked until you
Okay.
complete at least one other.
Oh, wait, the third one's blocked?
No, Boletaria. Well, I guess 1-3 is, yeah.
Okay. We do Tower Knight, we get rid of him, and then after that we can't advance any further, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Is there
Although
a
we
1-4?
We can now because we've beaten an
Yeah, there
Archdemon,
is.
but
There is.
yeah, 1-4 is the Old King.
Right.
It's the only zone that has a 4th sub-area.
Okay. So what do we just have Latria and...
The remainder of Stonefang, the Dragon God, and then Boletaria.
So that would just... Yeah. Assuming we could get through Latria in one stream, then that would be it, right? How many... Let's see.
Yeah.
How does Latria go? There's the
The
first level
prison.
that I remember, which is all
Yep,
the
there's-
prisons.
And then there's the tower, which the gargoyles carry us up, and then we're walking around on the platforms and catwalks up above.
Yeah.
And then the third area
go
of Latria
down?
is... Huh?
Don't we go down because there's... What's his face? Yor? In the cage?
Oh, there's Rydell in the cage, or Ridiel, depending on which in-game source you go by. But in 3-2, we ride the elevators down from the towers. We ride them back down to the ground level, and then we mess around on the ground level and ride them back up the tower again to the man-eaters. And then after the man-eaters, it's just the spiral staircase in the tower leading to the old monk.
Okay. So I think we should be able to... Could we do all that in the... As the last stream? Just all
Yeah.
of Latria and then...
Yeah, we
Dragon
could.
God, and then this.
Latria, Dragon God, and then Boletaria would make a good last stream. I think that'd be just enough.
Okay. Yeah. Which is funny because I made title cards for like up to, I think, part 20. Like, we're not going to part 20.
I appreciate
don't
that
wanna
you
have
thought
to do
that
this
far
twice,
ahead.
though. Yeah, I just knew I didn't want to have to go through and do that again. Because I remember doing the Elden Ring playthrough, and I had to make new cards just constantly. Because the game just kept going.
Yeah, and funny thing, it didn't really go much of anywhere in the end, did it?
Oh, it went right in the trash.
Thank goodness I wasn't.
It took me a while to realize I don't. This the whole point of this was to look at the lore, and then overanalyze everything, and to try to formulate what the story was about as we're playing it. And then I realized I hate the story. I don't care about any of the lore. I hate playing it. I just don't like doing this. And then after I realized that, it's like I just won't do it, and that fixed my problem.
It's funny how, what's that meme? What if it sucks? Hit the bricks, the skeleton one. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Oh, right.
church, cops, Elden Ring. You can leave.
What is... No, this one doesn't have any scaling besides... That's strength, I'm guessing? Rammed? It's just
Yes,
a
that's
strength hammer?
strength. Pure strength.
Okay. Shield. Okay. Oh, right, his armor. Forgot I was carrying this around. Dark silver helmet from Vinland. The impressive... Retiel.
Parietal.
Ale?
Parietal. It's an anatomical term. It's really weird that they used it here. It's
Oh, right, yeah.
it's technical medical language.
Yeah. It is strange. Represents the sacred tree of both houses. Its heaviness slightly impedes stamina regeneration. Oh, it actually makes it worse. Okay.
Yeah.
This is something I was thinking about when we were playing 2. I don't like it whenever things have specific effects like that. If it's a negative, I guess that's sort of more okay. I still don't like it.
You mean
But-
things like the grass crest shield?
Yeah, I
In
detest
one?
things like that. I know some people love it. I hate that stuff because I've been doing a 2 playthrough in Scholar to try to mentally prepare myself for the idea of doing a 2 playthrough, and the whole time I've been playing a support class build, a caster. I've had that stupid Hexer's hood on the whole time to get a few more cast out of things. Like, I don't want to wear this. I want to look different, but I can't because this is the thing that does that. And
No,
this is the
shut
only-
up. It's optimal. You will wear it. And
It's that, or there's one other one that does it, and there's a few other things that will either increase casting speed, or they'll raise your faith or something. It doesn't matter. I don't want anything visual to have a corresponding benefit, because that just means, all right, these are the things that you're actually going to be using.
yeah, it's predetermined what your character is going to look like if you care about being efficient.
Yeah, it's so frustrating. So sometimes I'll take it off, but in the back of my mind, it's like, oh, I just ran out of this thing. I would have a couple more casts if I had done this.
Yeah. This is why I really wish FromSoft would introduce something simple like a glamour system that lets you change the appearance of equipment.
Well, then they would have to modernize and change the way that they think.
Well, yes, they would, but it'd
And that
sure
can't
be nice.
loud. One day I'll get that shirt. This has been my goal of the playthrough, is to be able to get a shirt to where I can actually
Do you
roll
still not
without
have enough
fat rolling.
stamina?
Nope. I do not.
Oh.
I don't think I'm ever going to either. I'm not sure how much... how do you even view that? Equip
It'd be in
burden. There
stats,
we go.
equip burden.
Yeah, I'm only at 59 total. And is it 50 in this game? Be able to roll without fat rolling?
50%, yes.
Okay. I'm at 42.3 now, unfortunately. So I would need to have 84 or 85 technically, which is probably
Jeez.
never going to happen. I would change my outfit, but I really don't have that many.
Thank God I was.
Do I have anything that's lighter? I mean, I have rags, or the Saint's robe, I suppose.
I usually wear the Saint's robes and the silver coronet as a regen build. Because
Yeah, I'll
armor
probably just-
really doesn't make as much difference in Demon's Souls as it does in some of the games that came after.
It is funny how few options there are at this point. We've been collecting as many things as possible, and there's still only 4 things in my inventory that I can actually wear as a chest piece.
Demon's Souls has a dramatic dearth of armor and wearable equipment, yes. smallest selection of any game in modern FromSoft catalog.
Uh,
So, chat, he's trying to avoid spending a ring slot on the Ring of Great Strength.
yeah, I don't want to have to go out of my way to fix that problem. Since oh, they are the same weight.
Because, yeah, you could if you were willing to use the ring, but you only get 2 ring slots in Demon Souls, unlike most of the later games after DS1. Starting in DS2, you got 4 ring slots, and so it was a little bit easier to justify wearing that. But with only 2 here, it's not as... Well, Kelly, you can go through the game as a fat roll build. There's nothing stopping you, but it completely changes the way you have to play.
We are in danger.
Where's my... Yeah, that doesn't look quite as abrasive.
Yeah, that's not too bad. And when we go to Latria, you'll get the silver coronet if you'd rather use that. That'll give you a little bit more MP, too.
Oh, it doesn't change everything on that. Still can't do that. Oh boy. Yep, looks like Saints Boots it is. It looks really off-putting, unfortunately. Maybe the Maiden gauntlets are as it. It's not quite as bad, but it doesn't also go all the way up the sleeves. Yep, Demon Souls was not
Yeah, they didn't
great for
integrate.
fashioning.
Yep.
Thank God.
How can we do this? Oh, just cut off the arms. It's fine.
Yeah, unfortunately. Well, it'll stay that way. At least now I have a shirt, I guess. I couldn't work my way up to it.
We are indebted to
Well, we'll get there. But by the
I don't
time
think
we're
we
done...
will. Yeah, I don't think we will. Because that's going to require a lot. I don't think I can buff my... Because I think I'm already at like 35. No, I'm at 30. Still, once I get to 40 endurance, I don't think I'll have 80 something. It'll probably be more like 70 something at most.
You
Probably
keep
low
getting a quit
70s.
burden after 40, just not stamina points.
Well, anyways, it's not really that important.
Yeah, just a thing.
Yep, there really is very few fashion options in Demon Souls. It's one of those things I never see people talk about, and it's probably for good reason.
Well,
Even in 1, I was thinking about this because in playing 2, I remembered, well, there's a lot of fashion options in 2, and then as I go through, it's like there's really not, because most of this looks terrible, and most of it combines to look terrible.
I mean, yes, but it is still technically fashion. At least you've got options, even if they're all bad.
So they're still there. Most of them look awful. And by like 3, a lot of people complain in 3 because a lot of the game is very muddy in terms of the way that it makes things look, especially armor. And that's to help unify them, so that you can take pieces off one set and put it on another, and they look like they go together. Whereas in a lot of the other games, it's very obvious, like this one is this shade of silver, but if you take this other one, it's really obvious that it looks completely different.
Yeah, when they're on a character model side by side, you can definitely usually tell.
Yeah, so I kind of appreciate that about 3 in that sense. So 3 does have some... It at least unifies its fashion, even if it doesn't look amazing. I think, honestly, the first of the games is one good thing I'll say about Elden Ring, is it has much better fashion options.
They did improve the fashion drastically in Elden Ring, for sure.
Yeah,
Oh, hey, Major Monotone, thank you for the raid. Hello and welcome,
Monotone.
friend.
just in time, I suppose.
Yeah, just in time for...
Yeah, for us to go raid someone else.
Yup. I was eyeing
'Cause-
you, Monotone, actually.
I can see everyone gathering in my Discord because they're all anticipating Star Trek Voyager, I'm sure.
Ah, is that what you have planned after this?
Yeah, we actually started doing Voyager right after the last stream we did.
Really?
And I think we're at season 4? We've gotten pretty far.
Wow.
Yes, we've endured a lot. It's more of a... No. I think we're still in Season 3. Yeah, we're in Season 3. Season 3.
Okay.
We have endured a lot. It's not really because we just love Voyager so much. It's more of a, where did this one go wrong? Or, that was a good idea, but they shouldn't have done this. There's a lot of that going on. Okay.
Sounds like it'll make for interesting analysis.
Yeah, of course that's my bread and butter. I like seeing things that I sort of like and then going, well, I don't like this other thing though. I wonder why. And then trying to figure out what could I do to make it more of a thing I do like.
I mean, it's already kind of set in stone. There's only so much you can do, like changing your perspective so that you like bad stuff.
Yeah, I mean, some people just are not critical, and it's really good to be one of those people. Because, I mean, it's just good to like things. Just to be able to pick something up and go, well, this is good too. I also like this. It's much better to be non-critical first. Unless you're, like, if you're creative, then you should be critical on some levels, because that's going to help you. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, why would you want to be so critical that you find that you have trouble enjoying things? There's no advantage to that.
Well, it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? Being critical, like, it's one of those things where there are certain things that you have to be able to look at critically, because otherwise people take advantage of you and fool you and, you know, tell you, hey, go walk off that cliff over there. And you're like, okay, sounds like a plan. But if you're so critical of everything around you indiscriminately that you can't like anything, yes, that sucks.
Okay. So the next stream will be the last one, I would assume, unless something goes direly wrong. Assuming that we don't stand around in Latria just talking about nonsense, or get into a perpetual summoning match where we're just having to quit out constantly.
Which
That
could happen.
That could happen. So that's one thing. Anyways, that's it for part 4, I guess.
All right.
That'll be it for now. I'll send you
It
guys
looks
over
like
to, I think...
Nick?
Yeah, he is on. Actually, I want to send you guys over to Ouroboros, Brandon, because he's doing
no
Space Marine, since we were talking about that earlier in the stream.
Oh, he's playing the game you were talking about. Okay.
Yes, he should be. Although I think he's probably going to be doing PvP, which is fine.
He is, yes.
So,
Space Marine.
And I was talking about
PvP.
that, like how I'm no good at it, so you'll have something to discuss. There you go.
We'll get to actually see some of it in action. Cool.
Yeah. All right. I'll see you guys next time for part 5 and the finale.
All right.
Adios for now.
Have a good one, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you, Spy, once again.
Always a pleasure, Eli. Good to join you.
Always an enraging pleasure with Demon Souls. In any FromSoft game.
Same here.
Alright. Bye-bye, everybody. Raid now.